What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by Adam, Dylan, Kev. We are here to review the NFL draft. We're going to give you our grades, this time for the NFC, and we're going to start off in the NFCs. But before we do, in terms of the NFC, we looked at the AFC. If you guys have not already checked out our video for the AFC and maybe your team is in the AFC, go check out that AFC video. We went deep in depth for every single team. The video was almost 2 hours, so we definitely covered all the bases for every team and what they're going to look like in terms of their rookie class this season and beyond. So go check out that AFC video. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel because we do a ton more NFL videos just like this, live and in action. Guys, what did we think overall of the NFC drafts? Was it as good as the AFC, or do we think that the NFC was actually better?
I'll go with saying that the NFC I thought was a bit better because, as we know, a lot of teams in the AFC are chasing the Patriots. I think the NFC is a bit more wide open. If you look at a lot of these divisions, they could be close. And I think a lot of teams found some players that will fill holes going into next season to maybe get some extra wins. I think there's a lot more players in the NFC from what I'm looking at that are going to play right away from this draft than there are in the AFC.
Yeah, I thought it was a good draft for the NFC. I think possibly even better. Some of the lower teams in the AFC side did not do as well and kind of stagnated. And with the NFC, you could see a lot of teams that were with losing records, at least improving in a lot of varieties with this draft. So I think that makes it just a little bit better right off the top. And like Adam said, some of these players are going to make immediate impact on the NFC a little bit more than the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of teams that I thought didn't do very well in the NFC. But overall, I really felt like a lot of teams took some steps in the right direction, in my opinion. And which makes the NFC, specifically the NFC West, which we'll get into, I think is going to be very exciting this year. Especially I'm a defensive guy. I like defense, and I'm looking forward to see what the NFC West will be like this year.
All right. Yeah, I think the 49ers are a team that I really want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. And I'll also say on the low side, I probably have my 3 worst graded teams in the NFC. We'll get to that a bit later.
Yeah. At least one for sure. For me.
The number 1 wide receiver.
Let's start off in the NFC East. What is that?
Sorry.
With the Dallas Cowboys, we start off with a little taco fun. We got Taco Charlton in the first round, pick number 28 from Michigan, pass rusher. Then they went corner. They threw a receiver in there, and then they went safety. So they were trying to build that secondary and also build that pass rush early on in the draft. I really like what the Cowboys did this year. After the free agency, I was basically saying, the Cowboys look like depleted on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't lose much on the offensive side of the ball other than really backups. But on the defensive side of the ball, you look at their whole secondary, which was pretty much like torn down and apart. So they had to do some searching in the draft. They definitely did that. I thought they got some value picks with the 2 corners in the second and the third round. Ryan Switzer was a little bit of an interesting pick in the 4th round at wide receiver, basically a Cole Beasley clone. I think he's almost the same size. He almost looks exactly like him. So it's pretty funny. And then you got the wrestler himself, Xavier Woods, at safety in the 6th round. So interesting. But I really like the secondary picks for the Cowboys. I do like Taco. I actually thought that he was better than a couple of the pass rushers that went ahead of him. So I thought the Cowboys addressed all their needs pretty well, and I'm looking forward to see what the Cowboys do this season with that defense. If they can somehow get, good play out of this defense better than what we expect, then they could be right where they were last year. After the free agency, I was kind of expecting maybe a step down for them, but now that they have this great draft class that I think will be pretty good right away, they might be just where they were last year. So we'll see what happens. What did you guys think about the Cowboys draft? I'm going to give it a B+ for their efforts.
Yeah, I'm a B. From what I read, I do like Taco Charlton, but from what I read, he wasn't the guy they were looking at. He wasn't on Dallas's radar until they went to pick. There were a lot of guys I think they picked from watching the NFL Network and stuff. That was a big thing. I do like their corners. Awuzie from Colorado, good. Jordan Lewis, a very solid corner. And then Ryan Switzer, I'm with you. He's a clone of Cole Beasley, which is good. You can always have two of those guys, but it just sees, I've been hearing because Cole Beasley's contract is up, are you going to re-sign Beasley, or does Switzer move up into that position?
Beasley might actually get some money in the free agency. It depends. Slot receivers don't usually get a lot of money, but if Cole Beasley has another step forward this year, he might leave in free agency because he was good last year. So
and we know the Cowboys, I'm pretty sure, are kind of cap strapped a bit. You know what I mean? Like, if you have to pay guys money, I don't think you're paying Cole Beasley big time money to keep him.
Yeah, well, they still have a lot of young guys that they probably have to pay in the next couple of years. So
I don't know much. Xavier Woods is a decent safety. I don't know how much value you get in the 6th, 7th round. The one thing I will say that it's not a B+ for me, it's a B, is because you didn't get a starting outside corner, because Awuzie is a nickel corner that should be playing nickel, and same with Jordan Lewis is a nickel corner.
Circle of life.
Who's playing the music again?
Stupid jerk. I'm looking for something.
Okay.
Sorry.
Based off what Mike Mayock said here, he says that he played outside but kicked inside.
Yeah. So
what he basically is like he can play outside, but he preferably plays inside.
Exactly. And Jordan Lewis, actually, on Mayock's pre-draft rankings, he had him as a nickel corner, a very good nickel corner, which you need, right? You'll need the guys to take on.
They're very important.
Yeah, to take on the Shepherds, to take on the Crowders. You know what I mean? Even in Eagles, I guess Jordan Matthews is going to be a slot receiver if things work out the way I think. So yeah, it's great. I'll give it a B because I still think they probably could have got more of a true corner, a true outside corner, because right now Nolan Carroll is your guy.
I like how we'll go next year.
Okay. I like that the Cowboys built their defense up. I think that probably Taco will be okay with them. The Cowboys have actually drafted really well the last 2 or 3 years. I think that their corners overall were quite weak, especially against Green Bay. You could really see that. You can, if you don't believe me, ask Dylan. He'll explain that to you more. So I think that's certainly a step up. So I'll give it a B. For at least building up the defense. Ryan's, you can never really have enough Cole Beasleys, though. I think the possession receiver is becoming a little bit more important. So I'll give it a B. And I think it also depends on what they get if they end up trading Orlando Scandrick too, which is one of the talks out there.
Yeah, this is an interesting draft for me. I was looking at this defense coming into this draft like, holy shit, we have nobody. J.J. Wilcox left. Brandon Carr left. Thank God. We had Morris Claiborne leave in free agency. We had Barry Church. A lot of people in that secondary
Wilcox
gone. I said Wilcox.
Oh, you said it. Okay.
So I mean, like that was on the past the front seven. So secondary was so bad, and we needed them. We took Taco Charlton first, which I like that. I was impressed with that pick. I've seen a lot of work. I've been watching a lot of Michigan football because I've gotten into them, and I saw a lot of Taco Charlton. I was excited. But the best pick for me is Chidobe Awuzie. Like, I really like what I saw out of him. I think he's a solid second-round pick, and I just like the explosiveness that he gives, and he can be a turnover machine, so I like that. Jordan Lewis, another solid pick from Michigan. I really like that. Another cornerback we can use for help. I know Ryan.
He was the best corner on Michigan, by the way. He was the best corner on their team, and I like that. I like that. We need stars up there because we don't have very many cornerbacks that can make star plays. The secondary has Byron Jones and Nolan Carroll right now. That's about it in the secondary. Ryan Switzer, I actually like this pick. If you're not going to sign Cole Beasley in free agency, you let him walk. That's fine. Right now, I think Ryan Switzer is just going to be
punt and kick returns. But if he needs to be making a play, we have a guy named Bryce Butler who gets in there probably 8 to 10 snaps a game. Can still be really effective. So, it kind of works out that way. Xavier Woods, really good, not just because he's a wrestler, but he's still a good player. And I also like the pick of Noah Brown from Ohio State. I think he's an underrated receiver. I'm going with a B+. I think we addressed what we needed to address, and we didn't really move up anywhere. We just drafted basically almost on all of our positions. So I think you couldn't really ask for much more in this draft. Maybe if you gotten one bigger player, maybe in the first round if they had traded up. But I'm not really complaining. We addressed what we needed to address, and I think it gets the W. And by the way, you said, I think Adam said there's not a lot of talent when it comes to the 6th and 7th round. We do have a cornerback named Anthony Brown from the 6th round. So I mean, he needs to.
Yeah, I
obviously
have to watch the Cowboys film to see Anthony Brown play, but I'll take it.
I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lot harder to find talent in 6th and 7th round. I guess Mitch's team knows more than anybody, but it's how it works. We've had to deal with a lot of crappy cornerbacks, and hope to God Nolan Carroll gets replaced because I do not want him at all. But
the only thing I'll still say is the Cowboys secondary, even with this draft, is still a lot weaker than it was last year. A lot. I'm not scared if I'm going against this Cowboys secondary,
I don't know
even
about
with
that.
these rookies.
The only who was intimidating last year?
But still, Church and Wilcox played well. Claiborne had a good resurgence.
Church and Wilcox were good. I'm not.
You didn't. No, but I'm just saying you didn't. This draft wasn't enough to make up for the losses you had.
No, but you couldn't. That's just off draft. I mean, these guys have never played. Those guys are veterans. I get it to
exactly. So it's technically
technically worse, but we're a step up. We're a lot better off than where we were
before the draft. Yes, but I'm still not scared though. As an Eagles fan, I'm not scared of that secondary, even with these pickups.
You're not scared? By the way, Mitch again dropped out, so hopefully he fixes that up because the same fucking problem happens all the time.
Well, I think it still works.
You were still live. We are live.
No,
yeah, but if he doesn't get on in 5 minutes, then it's over. That's how it happened last time.
We're still live. So I guess we can talk.
Okay, let's go to the New York Giants because that would be the next alphabetical. So New York Giants, they've been playing they've been really good on the defensive side this last year. They did some really good stuff in the offseason last year to pick up Olivier Vernon and who else did they pick up last year? I can't remember. Janoris Jenkins. So they did a really good job there. This year they were kind of focusing on some D-line help. They needed a tight end. They needed a couple of places, and I think they did a decent enough job with these picks here. They got Evan Ingram in the first round. I think that was actually kind of a minus considering, first off, we think he's more of a lanky receiver. Like he could play the receiver position more than a tight end. And the fact that Njoku was still available at this position. There's Mitch Mulaney back on the call.
Did it go? Okay, it's not off air. Okay, good.
We're still on live. We're talking about the New York Giants.
Okay. All right.
I know.
Are you wanting me to go now or what?
I'll finish up what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think Evan Ingram is not exactly the best pick for them. I thought Njoku would have been a better tight end choice for him, and he just looks more like a receiver. So in that case, I think they took the L. They did get some defensive tackle help with Dalvin Tomlinson, which I think was a good pick. A couple of other guys I would say are decent enough picks. They did get a quarterback, Davis Webb, in the 3rd round, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe I don't think it's Eli's replacement, but they need a backup, I guess. They got a running back, Wayne Gallman, which is a good pick for the 4th round. I'm going to still go with a B- though, because I don't think they really did enough for me to be explosive or like as a Giant. I'm not a Giants fan, but if I was a Giants fan, I would say I don't know how I feel about this class. I don't think they're going to stand out that much. So for me, it's a B-.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, actually, this is one of my lower grades. I'm going to go C+ because I'm not a fan of Ingram. I think Njoku was a better tight end at that spot to take. And if you're not going to take them, there were a lot of players still at 23, even on the defensive side. I know they have a good defense, but still, when you're trying to make a push, like a lot of people are talking, the Giants want to make a push this year. I think you could have gone a tight end in the second round and focus on adding a defensive depth player like a linebacker or something at that 23 spot. They must have really liked Ingram if they're going to take him over Njoku and take him with the 23rd overall pick. Dalvin Tomlinson's good. Obviously, they lost Damian Harrison. I don't think he's going to be good as Harrison, so you lose there. And then
they have Harrison. They don't have Hankins.
Yeah, it's Hankins that they lost.
Oh, okay, sorry. So he's going to move
Max
out.
is still there.
He's going to move beside Harrison, which is fine. At Alabama, he was really productive. Davis Webb, I really like, but still, it's not helping your team right now, I don't believe. And if they think that it was worth a third-round pick, then that's what they think. I just still think you probably could have got some weapons on the defense or offense at that third pick to help your team now, which I think that's what the Giants really want to do because, this is the end of the Eli era. Maybe they thought they got good value with Davis Webb. I do like Davis Webb, but for them to pick him, wasn't sold on it. We've seen them screw up with an early pick on a quarterback before, and Ryan Nassib, who I actually like, but just has never even got a chance, or I think times he did play didn't look great. Wayne Gallman, I liked a lot of other running backs at that spot more so than him, and especially if you needed a running back. That's why just looking at this I don't think they did enough, especially they're one of the teams in the NFC that I think could have used the draft more for right now than later. So that's why I give them a C.
What?
I was just going to say real quick, we got some breaking news. Jamal Charles signed a 1-year contract with the Broncos.
Yeah, I saw that 1 year, like $3.7 million or something like that.
That's decent.
So he's going to be kind of that change of pace guy, which he's probably better at right now than, he's not a lead back anymore. CJ Anderson, I still think is a really good back. And I think they will complement each other well because CJ Anderson, even though he's kind of shiftier than he looks, he's more of that power style runner. He's bigger. He's low center of gravity. And Jamal Charles kind of runs a little bit upright. He's just straight line speed. So I think that's going to really help the Broncos, especially on third down where they don't have a pass catching back, and Jamal Charles can give them that. I know that we'll get to the Eagles not getting Jamal Charles. So I'll wait for Adam's thoughts on not getting Jamal Charles, but I'm going to talk about this Giants class. Evan Ingram, first round. Head scratcher for me. If you're going to go with the tight end, go with Njoku. I don't understand this pick. You have Ingram, who's basically a wide receiver. So my thing is, and this is a great point that I got to give credit to Michael Lombardi. He said this. He's like, how are you going to have Ingram, Shepard, Beckham, and Marshall on the field at the same time? Unless you want to play 4 receivers, you can't have them all on the field at the same time because Evan Ingram isn't a straight-up tight end. He can't block. So you're not going to have him playing tight end. You're going to have to take Shepard off the field, or you're going to have to take Marshall off the field. You're going to have to do – unless you just play 4 receivers, but then your offensive line is exposed, and that's leading to my point here. You have a tight end in the first round. I would have went with Njoku if you were going to pick one, but then you don't go with Ingram, or you go with Ingram, and you don't pick offensive line until the 7th round. So to me, your offensive line, especially your tackles, needed a lot of work. They didn't pick a tackle till the 7th or 6th round. They needed tackles desperately to protect Eli Manning. Like Adam was saying, this is a team that's trying to make a run at the Super Bowl. This is one of the teams that I think has the best chance out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. And they didn't address one of their number one needs, which was replacing Eric Flowers. He's not good. He can't block. He's not, he's athletic, but he just can't play left tackle. So you needed a replacement for him, and they didn't do that. So I'm kind of scratching my head over the Giants' early draft. And then they get Tomlinson, who by all accounts is a solid, good player, and he'll come in there and he'll replace Hankins, and that's perfectly fine. But if I remember correctly, your run defense specifically was already one of the strongest parts of your team. So sure, you're adding another D tackle to replace a guy that you lost, but you could be using that pick to improve your team in other areas like offensive line, like middle linebacker, like running back. So I just don't understand why you would do, D tackle in the second round and go with a tight end that's more of a project in the first round than anything. And then you go with the quarterback in the third round. this seemed like a draft that was meant for a team that wasn't going to compete for the Super Bowl this year.
100%.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe they like the running back that they got in the 4th round, but to me, I have to give this like a C. It was not a good draft at all. I don't like their 1st-round pick, and when I don't like your 1st-round pick, I'm going to automatically lower the grade. I just don't understand this draft for the Giants, a team that I think has a good chance of going to the Super Bowl.
I'm actually going to change my grade to a C+ after all this because I did not like it. Kebo.
You're on mute.
Kebo, you're on mute.
Like I was talking, and then no one was listening. Marshawn Lynch also officially signed with the Raiders today as well. To me, I think my problem with this draft is what the Giants are telling me is that the way that they're going to try to beat the Cowboys is Eli Manning is going to have to throw 60 passes. And I understand why you're developing your receiver core because that Cowboys secondary isn't.
Well, to be fair, they beat them twice last year. To be fair.
And they still have a good defense because they didn't really need to use the draft for defense in a way. They could have used some more pieces, but I'm with Mitch, and they do have they have the best defense in the NFC East even before the draft.
Yeah, but Green Bay trounced them. I think not only offensive line, but I don't think that Eli Manning you can win with Eli Manning throwing 63 passes. I think you needed also. I don't think that they addressed a running back need as well. I think that I'm not sold on Paul Perkins. Not sold on that running game. I think that you're relying too much on Eli and that passing game, and that offensive line isn't great. And I'm sorry, I'm not enamored with that defense. I'm not enamored. I think the Giants had a pretty easy schedule last year to get to 11-5. I know that people loved them, but that was an easy schedule. They're going to have a tougher schedule this year. I don't think that they're going to be as good. And I certainly don't know if I have them in the top 2 right now in that division, to be quite honest with you. So I'm also at the C in one of the worst drafts of this draft.
All right, let's move on, and let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles and Adam's Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, they went with the shocking pick of Derek Barnett in the 1st round that at first thought Adam absolutely freaked out and hated it.
It was more because I needed to think about it. I think a lot of Eagles fans were like this because the more and more I read, the more reactions I hear from around the NFL, the more I watch NFL Network. This is a good pick. You go through what you think, but I'm totally sold, and I'll tell you why. I'm totally sold on this pick right now, and I'm actually sold on a lot of their draft class. But you can let's get. We need the Mitch recap first, though.
Mitch.
Yeah, Derek Barnett, DN, round 1. This is a guy that I thought was a little bit overrated. Now I know Adam's going to defend him, but this is kind of how I thought, and this is how Adam thought at the beginning. Correct. So what I thought is he produced a lot. He got all the sack records, everything. But when I watch the player, he's not explosive as a pass rusher. The guy looks like he doesn't know a pass rushing move. He just kind of gets around the guy, and then he like sacks him. Like, he doesn't look very impressive every single time. Like, when I watch him, maybe he's a good player that doesn't look impressive. I don't know. But then you also add into the fact that, was this the biggest need on your team? I look at it and I'm like, I don't know, because I really love Brandon Graham. He had an awesome year last year.
He's 30 though.
Yes, you lost Connor Barwin.
He's 30. Brandon Graham's 30. Vinny Curry's
30 though. 20. He's got like 3 years left. Come on.
Still, this was, for me, the Eagles draft weren't looking about this year, which I like. For the first time, we made some picks looking in the future and got value for them. I know if you look at Barnett though, he played in the SEC and as a true freshman had 10 sacks, ended up with 32 sacks against the SEC. Most of these sacks came against some of the best old linemen, the best tackles in college football. A guy like Robinson, watch that Alabama game when he just obviously Alabama beat them, but still he was getting around Robinson with ease, making big plays. This guy's just a football guy. He doesn't test well. But on that wide 9, Jim Schwartz, where they have a lot of guys going in and out. And I do like we brought Chris Long in. I like the veteran presence with Barnett. I think he's going to probably be like a 15 to 20 snap guy. But if you do, I don't get why you don't see the explosiveness. When I watch his highlights, he's pretty powerful.
I don't get it. I just don't get it, man. I don't think it was worth the 14th pick.
Well, we didn't.
That's just me.
If anything, we should have traded out of that pick because I didn't really like anyone at that pick that it would have been reaching if we picked anyone else. I think.
Okay. At round 2, they picked Sidney Jones from Washington. He has a lot of upside, obviously. He was supposed to be a first-round pick. He was supposed to be high first-round pick. He's not going to be ready for the middle of the season. I know people keep saying, like, he's going to be ready. But even if he's ready, he's not going to be himself. Like, his Achilles injury, like, that is absolutely, like, takes so long to come back from.
For sure.
I would say we're going to have to wait till the next season to see this guy.
That's
so we won't really be able to evaluate him till then. But, like, yeah, for now it doesn't help them. But for the next couple of seasons down the road, it's going to help them. And like Adam said, this is a draft that they looked at, and they're looking into the future with the draft. I think the Eagles will be a pretty competitive team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll be pretty competitive. And they're setting themselves up for the future. They also picked another corner, 6'2", nice measurables there in the 3rd round. They addressed the wide receiver position. I think overall this is a pretty good draft in terms of addressing your needs. I wasn't a huge fan, like I said, of the Derek Barnett pick, but overall this is a draft more than anything that you're looking a couple years down the road, and I think it could work out big time. It really depends on the Sidney Jones pick, though. If Sidney Jones can never recover, then you maybe be looking at this draft like, oh, maybe we should have went somewhere else with that pick, but if he's great and if he turns out to be that top 10 guy that he was supposed to be, then you're looking at this draft like, wow, that was a fantastic value. So it could lean either way. It's boom or bust, but I really like the Eagles selecting for the future. So I'm going to give it a B+. The Eagles.
I think it was a decent draft. I'm going with a B in this grade. I'm not the biggest fan of Derek Barnett. I'm kind of feeling with the Mitch here. I see it to a degree. And I know he had all the SEC acclimates and all that stuff, but I'm not the biggest fan. I think it was a little bit of a stretch at 14. I know he's a great player and all, but maybe for the Eagles, I feel like it was just a weird fit for him. Sidney Jones, I really like the pick of Sidney Jones. There's a little bit of risk in there with the injury and all that, but I mean, round 2, pick 11, the 43rd pick overall in the draft. That's a really good, solid pick right there. And it's kind of a boom or bust right there, but I think there's a lot of upside, and that's obviously why they drafted him, because he's very talented, could have easily gone in the 1st round. So this is a great pick here. Rasul Douglas, 3rd round, West Virginia, another cornerback that can really help out. I like some of these other picks down the road, but again, if it goes down to first round, kind of is where my influence is here. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit different, but I did like the Sidney Jones pick quite a bit, and some other picks here down 3rd and 4th round here. So I'm going with a solid B.
Go ahead, Kev.
All right. I think I want to give it a B-ish, close to a C. I look at this Derek Barnett. Here was the picks after Derek Barnett: Malik Hooker, Marlon Humphrey.
Didn't need.
He wanted secondary, though.
Marlon Humphrey was very overrated. Yeah, keep going.
Jonathan Allen, who I think is better than Derek Barnett.
We didn't need him. We got Timmy Jernigan and Fletcher Cox, a better player than Jonathan Allen will ever be. So keep going.
But you picked a guy that's going to be injured, that is injured for half of the season.
Top 10 talent, Achilles injury with modern science. They've done their research. He's going to come back stronger than ever. Yeah.
Sorry, as much as you're trying to convince me,
I'll just keep going.
As much as you're trying to convince me for your first 2 picks, I do think that both of them will be in somewhat regrets, especially a guy like Hooker, especially a guy like Humphrey. I think are very talented. I think
Hooker they didn't need because they had safeties already. Hooker, in my opinion, was the best player on the board, but they didn't.
Same with Jonathan Allen. Yeah. which we didn't. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
And
when
I was laughing while I was on mute just because Adam sounded like me defending the Patriots or the Penguins.
keep going. Come on, another one.
100%.
Whatever. I'm going to prepare to do that with the Seahawks, so it's all good. Just I liked the Rasul Douglas pick. I like the size. I liked more what you did at the end than you did at the beginning. I'm not entirely sold what you did at the, but in the end, I think you did in the middle, day 2 and 3. I thought was a bit better than your day 1.
I'd agree with that.
That's why I'm giving it a B. I'm not entirely convinced that this leads you to the playoffs either this year or next year. We'll have to see. But who knows?
Okay. No, I respect all your opinions. Great guys. Great group of guys here. I'm going B plus, and it's not even a homer B plus because I did my homework and I looked at what people were talking about and it sold me on it. And these are guys that aren't, I'm getting this from football guys, not Eagles fans. The thing with Derek Barnett is he's a perfect fit for the Jim Schwartz system. Wide 9, all his tape, football guy, SEC, 13 sacks last year, 33, and he started as a true freshman. So even with Derek Barnett, it's a kind of a system. Obviously, we got Long in there. Vinny Curry's 29. Brandon Graham had his best year, kind of like Alonzo Alexander, later in his career. It took about 6-7 years since Graham's drafted to actually be an impact player. When we go to Sidney Jones was a guy that the Eagles really wanted to take at 14 before anything happened. I think they've done their homework with the Achilles injury. I don't think he's going to help us this season, but with modern day science and what I've seen with other players with Achilles injuries, they come back very strong because they get restructured, similar to Tommy John's surgery with the elbow. If we go round 3, Rasul Douglas is going to be our starting cornerback. He's still really raw. He's a guy that played 3 years of JUCO and then 2 at West Virginia. He had 8 picks last year. He doesn't have the best speed, but I think with the system, Schwartz's system, likes to play a bit of zone, 6'2", which I've been waiting to see this for a while. Watching Howie Roseman's interview, the big thing that I like what he said is in 2001 or 2002, in the 2nd and 3rd round, the Eagles picked up Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown. Lito Shepherd being kind of the smaller, quicker corner, and Sheldon Brown being the more physical corner. And look what that happened. That kind of was our mainstay of our 2 corner positions for a long time to come. I think Douglas is a really raw, but I think he's going to play right away because right now he's our best. I think our best corner. We got we got Patrick Robinson, who's not that great. Jalen Mills was a rookie last year, played a lot, but he's more of a nickel guy. We'll see what happens there. We didn't really technically get a starting corner right away, but Sidney Jones is a project. In our 4th round pick, Mac Hollins is a poor man's Evans on Tampa Bay. He's a good special teamer. He's kind of a boom or bust situation, but he can play, he can be a deep threat in the red zone. Here's my little sneaky pick. We finally get the running back in Donnell Pumphrey. Only 2 running backs have rushed for more yards in college football than him, Ron Dane and Tony Dorsett. The thing with Pumphrey, 5'8", 176. He is Darren Sproles. But the thing with Darren Sproles, he's 33. He has 1 year left, and I think that's and Sproles is a good teammate. That's a good guy to learn from. And the thing with Peterson we've seen is Peterson doesn't care what your stature is. He'll find ways to get you the ball. So I think he can help out. We still are looking for that between the tackles, running back, and then Shelton Gibson, who's kind of a Deshaun Jackson-like guy, 5th round. But the 5th round pick I like was Nate Jerry. He's a big safety that they're going to move to linebacker. If you watch his tape, he's very physical. He's got some edge to him, so I like that. And then we get a D tackle. So I'm B plus. And another thing I'll say is the running back we just got from Wisconsin. Help me out here, Dylan. I forgot his name already. Clement. Yeah, Clement. In Wisconsin, he had some off-field issues. I think he punched a guy in an elevator in his junior year. Didn't really play
Classic.
well. At least it wasn't a woman. That's what I say. So he's got some off the field issues, and he's injury prone. But still, last year 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns. I think he's going to be our first two down back next year as an undrafted free agent, because I think Matthews is out the door, and right now he's the only guy that can really run between the tackles.
What's your thought about Jamal Charles, bro? You didn't bring up Jamal Charles.
Yeah, I'm kind of choked. But when I see the money, 3.75, the Eagles are still needing to get in cap help, and that just I think that was a bit too steep for them, even just for 1 year, because we're cap strapped. We're gonna have to release some guys even going into the season next year to get cap eligible or whatever. So at 3.75, I think it was too much, because I thought we could maybe get him at 2, 1.5, but that's not the case, and we'll move on from it.
What do you guys think of Darren Sproles? I know
Darren Sproles is one of the most underrated players
100%.
of all time.
He's so talented. I mean,
I think he set the record for most yards from scrimmage in a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's been the heartbeat of our Eagles team, keeping us together with big plays.
He was
shit.
No offense to your Eagles, but he was phenomenal on the Saints. He was.
Yeah, he was amazing.
100%. But look at some of those highlights that we've seen in the punt return. And
I know he's great. He's a great punt returner. He's the
only running back from Philadelphia in the last 3, but before, after McCoy left, that I'd be like, man.
It just seems like Sproles is basically that guy. The Eagles always sign somebody, and then they expect him to be the starter, and then the Sproles just bails them out because they always suck
multiple times. And I'll give credit to Peterson. I think the play calling was very good last year. I don't think we had the receivers, but if you look at the position, Peterson, his offense in his very first year with a rookie quarterback, how it still moved. And look how many games we lost in the fourth quarter. 6 of those games that obviously we weren't the better team, but we're in the game late in the fourth quarter or a last-minute drive or something like that. So we're a couple pieces away. We have a tough schedule, a tough NFC East. That's why I'm saying, 10-6 is the max we go, and it's going to be 7-9, 8-8 is the low.
So in the chat here, we have a couple things. We have Victoria and another lady that is a fan of the Patriots. All the ladies love the Patriots. Come on.
Bullshit.
Also, she asked, when are the Patriots? What about the Patriots? We did a video yesterday on the AFC, so the Patriots are in there if you want to search through that video and find us. But basically, I thought the draft was really solid for the Patriots, especially if you factor in all the trades with all the draft picks with Brandon Cooks and Coney Ely and Mike Gillisley and all the guys that they got through their draft picks. So really like the Patriots draft this year.
Let's just say that they're going to draft guys from the supermarket, and they're going to be Super Bowl MVPs in 3 years. That's just all it fucking is.
Can we quickly get what Kevin was going to say about Darren Sproles, though? I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Okay. I think he's okay, but I've never been.
Bye.
Where are you going?
It's the size thing. It's the size.
Okay.
I mean, I know
Darren Sproles has been great. Do you want me to pull up his numbers?
Pull up his numbers.
Maybe I miss him. I don't know. I mean, I thought he was great with this. I think he can make the big play, but is he a everyday running back?
No, he's not meant for that, though.
What you do?
It's like McCaffrey. I mean, he's not like a power running back. The guy's 5'6" and 190.
Yeah, it's how you use them.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Okay, NFL records. Most combined total return yards in 2 playoff games, 602. Most all-purpose yards in a single season, 2,696.
Holy shnikes.
He has franchise records for most punt return touchdowns for the Eagles, most all-purpose yards for the Saints, and franchise record for most career kickoff return yards for the Chargers.
He's played on some really bad teams, though. I feel bad for the guy.
He had 86 receptions in 2011, 75 in 2012, 71 in 2013. He had 6 touchdowns rushing in 2014 with the Eagles. So he's had a pretty impressive career.
No, and at 33 years old, being that small to have that career, is pretty impressive. Like even last year, you know, his big plays, 73-yard receiving touchdown, also a 25-yard rushing touchdown. And then, you know, we've seen in the past that, you know, he almost is good for an 80-plus yard punt return every year.
Sure, yeah.
Alex did bring up that Sammy Watkins declined his 5th-year option. So pretty much what I got from that is he's going to be a Patriot next year.
Jesus, God.
Well, hey, Chris Hogan, Mike Gillislee, Sammy Watkins. Bring him on.
You have so many
what you're saying
receivers.
is the Buffalo Bills are the farm team for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, basically. But like, why? I guess he's injury prone, but he's not going to re-sign with the Bills. You think he's going to re-sign with the Bills? He's not going to re-sign.
He ain't going to re-sign.
Come on.
He's got too much talent.
He's going to go with the Seahawks or something.
No, we'll take him.
Space Cowboy thinks that the 49ers won the draft. They got players they wanted and gained draft capital to get those players.
Yes.
Great value. And of course, Chauncey says, Brother Nero, I knew you'd come. All right. Let's move on to one of my favorite drafts in the entire NFL.
Wow.
So, Washington Redskins. People might feel differently than me, but I looked at their draft and I said, what do they need? They need to stop the run. They need to get some defensive ends inside. They need to get some linebackers, maybe another pass rusher. Maybe they need a running back, maybe another guy next to Josh Norman in the secondary. So that's what they did. First round, they got Jonathan Allen, the best possible guy at that spot they could have gotten. Pretty much perfect for their scheme. They play a 3-4. They needed a guy that could stuff the run, but also rush the passer from the inside. That's what Jonathan Allen gives you at 6'3", 286. He might need to bulk up a little bit, go to 300, but I think, you know, he's going to be pretty good for them, and he can start right away. Ryan Anderson is a guy that can also come in on third downs and rush the passer. He's also from Alabama. Outside linebacker, they have Ryan Kerrigan. They also have the other kid who was impressive last year. I always forget his name. But then, you know, they needed that other guy to come in and kind of rush the passer as well on third down, which they were a little weak at times last year. So Ryan Anderson can do that. They got a really good value in the third round for Morrow, the cornerback from UCLA. You know, he was a first round corner basically before I think he tore his pec, it says here, at his pro day. He's 6 feet tall. He can play the outside. He's fast. He's got, you know, length. I think he might start midway through the season for Washington. Next to Josh Norman, and they desperately needed a guy next to him because they would just throw the other side of the field all day long. Like, it didn't matter who was over there. You know, they addressed running back in the 4th round, which was great because they need another guy. They don't really know who their starter is. I mean, Fat Rob was pretty good last year. Matt Jones is just crap. I just don't think he's good.
The only thing I'll say about this pick is Perrine is pretty similar to Fat Rob in a way, right? They're not really pass catchers.
Yeah, he's 233, 5'11".
Yeah, like they're big. They're great running backs. I really like the pick. But maybe they're just not a big fan of Fat Rob if they made this pick. That's what it kind of tells me.
Interesting. Or maybe they just want that style of running back. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I love the draft for the Redskins. I'm gonna give them an A-.
A-. That's a banger. I really love the pick of Jonathan Allen. I think it was a solid pick, a right pick at the right time for the Redskins. I give solid defensive end help, and for the Redskins, they need to bring pressure to these solid quarterbacks that are going to be playing, especially in the NFC East. You got to put a lot of pressure. Jonathan Allen will be excellent. Ryan Anderson, another solid pick from Alabama as a linebacker. That'll be very interesting to see kind of that scheme for them, and I think he'll work. Fabian Moreo, I believe that's how you say that, is a solid pick from UCLA. And Perrine, I've seen a lot of Perrine. I mean, he broke the rushing record only to get beat the next week in yards, so that's funny. But he's solid, especially in the 4th round. Like, I mean, you're not really going to complain about a 4th round running back, I think, if they bust. And I think this one's a solid pick, especially considering their running backs are absolutely garbage. So I'm going to give this a B+. I feel like they did what they needed to accomplish. And overall, I would say they got the solid picks for their worth.
Yeah, I'm going to go A. This is actually one of my favorite drafts, San Fran being probably the first, and maybe Packers are up there with my favorite. But you know, a team that has a very good offense. I feel even without Garcon and without Jackson.
Well, they signed Pryor.
Yeah,
and
I still
drafted Doxson for a reason, right?
Yeah, and I do like that offense because I had Cousins as my fantasy quarterback last year too. So I watched Redskins, not even hating on them. I was like,
oh yeah, I had Fat Rob and Crowder. So and one guy that sorry to cut you off, Adam, but Crowder, he's gonna break out this year. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So if we're looking at this draft, they need a defense. They get Jonathan Allen, great value that they probably never in a million years thought they were going to get him at 17. Ryan Anderson, you know, Kerrigan's getting older. You can have him on the opposite side rushing. I think both those guys start. Moreau from UCLA, I think was an unbelievable pick. I think if the Eagles, I really were looking at him. Actually, they took two guys I wanted the Eagles to take in the 3rd and 4th round just before the Eagles picked. I think Moreau could get a lot of playing time last year. And then Perrine, I was hoping he would last a bit longer or the Eagles would try to get him because he's a really good, you know, first two down back. So, you know, I'm impressed with what they did. They made their defense better, and I think they made their defense better week 1 of the regular season too.
Yeah, this is the statement I'm going to make. The thing that I remember about the Washington Redskins thing, when I think of the Washington Redskins, I think about that game in Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys where they went offense for offense with them, but their defense couldn't stop the Dallas Cowboys. They couldn't stop a paper bag. They couldn't stop a lamp. They couldn't stop anything. And a guy like Jonathan Allen, especially with the Cowboys offensive line, I think will be a huge factor. Perrine, you need as many running backs as you can get nowadays. Kirk Cousins is an elite quarterback. One of the I would put him in the top 10. I'm going to say this. I think the Redskins are the second best team in that division now. I think they passed the Giants. I think that this draft would put them ahead of the Giants, and I will give them an A.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to the next division. Who are we going? Who do we want to go? NFC North or NFC South?
North.
Okay, let's go with the Chicago Bears. All right, so we got the first pick. 3rd overall, they were going to.
Is anyone here?
I'm here.
Mitch,
Mitch, did you freeze?
You froze.
Can you hear me?
Now you're back. You're back.
Okay. All right. I was just saying how beautiful Mitchell Trubisky's name is. Isn't that just not a beautiful name? But Mitchell Trubisky. Number 2, no, it is Trubisky. Number 2 overall, they trade up with the 49ers and they get Mitchell Trubisky. Now, a lot of people have a problem with this pick. I don't. The reason why I don't have a problem with this pick is because I appreciate a team going out there and putting their balls on the table and saying, hey, this is our guy. This is the best quarterback we believe in the draft. This is a guy that's going to lead our franchise, and we're going to trade up and we're going to pick him. I discredited other teams for doing different things. So doing the exact opposite, I was ripping them apart. So I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and not, say the other thing of the Bears went out there, they traded up, they got the quarterback, and they did their thing. Now, could they probably have selected him 3rd overall? Yes. It's probably like an 85% chance they could have gotten him. But what about that chance that not only the 49ers might have taken him, but what about the Browns? What about a team, that might have traded up to grab Trubisky? You never really know. So I appreciate them doing that. Like as much as they might have given up some picks to do it, I like it. In the 2nd round, they got a tight end, which was a little bit confusing. I really think that the Bears need secondary help, specifically corners. And at that pick, there were a lot of them. So you could have maybe picked a corner at that spot. But if you really like this guy, totally understandable. It was one of their needs. But I really feel like the Bears offensively were actually really underrated last year. I know that they did lose Alshon Jeffrey, and that's a pretty big loss. But you did need a weapon. Your wide receivers are lacking. Your tight end isn't very talented. So I understand the pick in the 2nd round. It wasn't my favorite, but I understand it. Eddie Jackson, safety from Alabama. A lot of Alabama players. Usually, you know, always pretty solid, easy to coach, very versatile. It looks like he basically, you know, he was a punt returner. He was a guy that got a lot of interceptions. And to me, this guy actually screams to me Cyrus Jones, and we know how that turned out last year.
The virus.
We'll see if he's better this year, but to me, this draft was okay. I'm not going to rip them apart because they did get the guy that they mainly wanted to get. The thing I didn't understand about the Bears was before the draft even started, why did they sign Mike Glennon to that much money? I'm confused. Okay, yeah, I'm confused about that.
I feel like it wasn't their solid like choice before. Like I think they were scrambling, and then
so I'll give them a C+.
I will give them a D+. I think this was the worst team in the draft. I understand where Mitch is coming from. You want to go balls out. To a degree, I understand that. You want to go a little bit different and you want to excite it up. I think this was terrible value, though. You went up one pick, which maybe you could have gotten still in the third round, I think, or excuse me, the third pick. I believe that's what would have been the case. But they gave up way too much to go up one pick. I believe it was a third and a fourth rounder this year and a third rounder next year. I believe that's what it was. This was it was terrible value. So they only had 5 picks. And Mitchell Trubisky, I thought, was the third best quarterback out of anybody there. They could have gone with Mahomes, who I think would have been a cannon, especially for some of the talented receivers they still have there. And even if you want to go a bigger quarterback, you could have gone Deshaun. I just think it was terrible value for your money. With Adam Shaheen, I don't think it was their biggest necessarily need to get a tight end. I think they could have gone a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball or even offensive lineman with the second round pick. Eddie Jackson, the safety is a solid pick. It's probably the only pick I like. Tariq Cohen, I'm not a big fan of, especially at the running back. But again, it's a fourth round pick. I think they just could have gone more value for their buck. And I think they took a big swing. And for me, I think they missed. I'm giving them a D+. If they prove me wrong, they prove me wrong. But this is why we're doing this thing a week after.
How do you know they missed yet? He hasn't played.
No, we don't know they missed. I think what Dylan's saying.
I feel like they missed. I feel like they dropped the ball. I feel like they could have gone better for their money's worth.
This is just a draft that you don't know. You don't know yet.
True.
That's why I'm saying I feel like they dropped the ball now.
I'm giving them a D, and I like Mitch Trubisky. I think he has potential. It's just how everything moved. You signed Glennon for big money, so now you're strapped with him, you know, for the cash, at least for 2 years or whatever it was. You move up, you give away a third round pick, you take Trubisky, whatever, and you know, another pick next year. That even didn't bother me. But then in the second round, you go from just a big tight end that just seems like has all the intangibles, but he went to Ashland. It's not like this guy's playing against Alabama. You know what I mean? You watch some of his highlight tape, the highlight tape they were showing. It's like he was playing in a Pop Warner league. Everyone was like 5'5", 5'6", and he's just dominating. Maybe they like that, but still, that pick was a miss. Jackson, the fourth round, they still needed a corner. Jackson could pan out. He's a decent safety. But then the fourth round, you get a running back when Howard is like 23 years old, and Howard looks really good, when you should use that fourth pick on more depth at other positions you need that potentially could be starters on a really bad Bears team. So just all in all, this was a big failure. I don't think Trubisky is going to be a bust. I think he's going to be a good player. It's just I don't like how they worked this draft. When that's why I give him a D, which is my lowest grade of the draft.
When you're the third worst team in the NFL, you need a bunch of stuff. And to me here, there's two problems here. I can see this trade if you're picking Fournette, because I feel like if you're signing Mike Glennon for this much, I know Howard's 23 years old. If you're picking a guy like another franchise guy from another position, I kind of understand that, because you've got $16 million on your quarterback. You can build from other areas. I think my problem is you're going to have about, let's just be realistic here, probably $26 million on your quarterback next year, and you don't really have one that is proven yet. Like, we don't know what Trubinsky is going to be, and Mike Glennon isn't worth it. I don't think there's anyone here that would pay $15 for Mike Glennon. $15 million for Mike Glennon a year.
I would pay $15 for Mike Glennon.
Or 15. Well, Dylan wouldn't pay 15.
No.
And the other problem with this is when you're the third worst team in the NFL, you need draft picks. And they didn't even remotely fix their defense, not even a little bit, which was worse than their offense. And Mitch is right. Their defense was awful last year. They couldn't stop a leaf on the ground. They couldn't even pick that up, which is not the Bears, which is not how we know the Bears to be. So I'm actually giving this an F. And you know what, Trubinsky could work out, but I think that there's going to be so much pressure on this kid to be something in an environment where, like, every little step that this guy makes, he's going to be criticized for this because of this trade. They put him in such an incredibly awkward position. Not only that, the GM and the coach were not on the same page on this. My understanding is Fox wanted to go a different direction, and they were not. The coach John Fox wasn't even aware that Ryan Pace was going to do this. There's a huge debate if people were going to be in there. They could have been. They may not have been. We weren't there. We don't know. It's not so much the gamble. It's the fact that I think that they gave up draft picks and they didn't fix the area that I think they needed to fix the most, which is their defense. So that's why I'm giving them an F. There it is. My first F.
That was a rant and a half there.
And I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I think when we get into this North, I think there's one team, obviously, that had a way better draft, but looking at the other three teams, the NFC North might have had the worst draft out of any division.
Yes.
We'll get into the grades, but there's one team that I really like that I thought had one of the best drafts of the NFC, but the other three teams are very low grade, in my opinion.
So Bret Hart is sitting here in the chat, and he keeps wanting to say he wants me to put him over. He says, I want Mitch to put me over as the best there is and the best there was.
No.
He also says, I want to hear the Eagles fans grade, just the Eagles fan. He doesn't know your name. Eagles fan grade on Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it was B+.
Bret Hart's
But everyone was actually pretty close. Actually, Mitch was actually the closest to my grade.
I said B+.
Everyone else. Yeah. Awesome.
There you go. I didn't hate on you, Adam.
No.
I only hated your first two picks. I didn't hate the rest.
EAGLES.
Eagles. No.
Okay, let's go next to the Detroit Lions. The Lions spent their first pick on Jarrad Davis, linebacker from Florida. I like this pick. They desperately needed to fill their linebacker position. I think, he is a little bit injury prone. He missed a lot of time with an ankle injury, but I think he'll be pretty good. He can play all three downs, and that's definitely what you're going to hopefully you get in the first round of the draft. You're going to get a 3-down linebacker. He's 6'1", 238. He can cover those tight ends, but he can also play the run. I think he's a solid player, and I think the Detroit Lions desperately need the linebacker, so I like that pick. And then in the second round, I think this was also a pretty good pick just based off the need. They needed a corner. They also went back to Florida. Didn't the last team or the Redskins pick 2 Alabama right in a row, and this is 2 Florida right in a row?
Yes.
That's interesting. So, yeah, they signed DJ Hayden. Yeah, they already have Darius Slay, and now they're going to have this kid from Florida, so then he's going to be on the other side. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, it's shaping up in the secondary. I'm a big fan of Mr. Bob Quinn because he really was with the Patriots for like his whole career up until last year. I think he did a fabulous job in free agency. I think he's continued it into the draft, addressing the needs that he hasn't already addressed. I think this was a decent draft overall for the Lions. I'd give it a B.
With this draft, I feel like they did some things right and some things wrong. My grade is going to be B-. With Gerard Davis, I think is a very solid pick at linebacker. It's one of their biggest issues, and that defensive 7, I was not really feeling as much as their secondary. Tease Tabor in the second round from Florida, solid pick at cornerback. I really like that. He's a good player. Maybe runs a little bit poorly, but I still think he has gotten all the talent to do something there. And I like the 6 foot, 200 pounds, like that, fits well. A couple of other decent players that I like. I also like Michael Roberts from Toledo. Some solid picks here in the later rounds, and they got Brad Kaya at the end, which is interesting. But
yeah, he was pretty good on Miami.
I like him. I don't know why they would need him. I guess he's going to be the backup quarterback.
Well, a backup quarterback, maybe, or maybe he turns out. This is Bob Quinn. He drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. So
you are right. But
also, what was I going to say? The one thing I didn't like, the reason why I gave them a B, I didn't like that they didn't address their pass rush. Ansah was not good last year. I know he was injured, but he kind of seemed like he took a step back. Maybe he'll be back to his normal self next year, but they didn't have anybody to help him out on the pass rush. So I think the Lions really need a pass rusher, and that might hold them back if they'll probably make the playoffs this year. So that'll probably hold them back from going far in the playoffs, in my opinion.
I feel like they did okay with this draft. I'm going B- because I like the Draw Davis and Tease Tabor pick. But some of them are just like, could you gotten better? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is similar to the Giants, where obviously they're in a position where they have a great offense. They won a lot of big games last year. The North kind of had a low point because obviously the Vikings were kind of down a bit last year. I think the Packers are getting better. So Detroit needed to do something here. I'm not a huge fan of their first 2 picks. Gerard Davis, unbelievable middle linebacker, but at 21, I think you could have got a bit more value to add to your defense. Maybe not be at the linebacker, but definitely at the D end position. Maybe even getting a more solid corner at 22 or 21, whatever they were. Tease Tabor, I'm not a big fan. I think there were some better corners available than Tabor at that point. And then when I look at some of their other picks, their third-round pick, Golladay, he's kind of boom or bust, project. He looked decent sometimes at Northern Illinois. They get another tight end. I do like Jamal Agnew. I think that was pretty good value at corner. Overall, I think they could have got more value with their picks. And I think I think they reached a bit on some of these guys here.
I want to give them a B. I feel like their linebacker, they did need to improve their defense. Looking back at that Detroit-Seattle game, I'm always kind of remember like specific games when I kind of think about this. But when you cannot rush the Seattle Seahawks offensive line, which is probably the worst offensive line in all of football, and this may include Pop Warner football, there's a problem. And I'm a little concerned.
Kev, they weren't as good as some high school basketball teams at blocking.
We get this Seahawks. We use sort of the box out triangle defense. We thought that would work as well. So that's a bit of a concern. But I like their linebacker. Their defense, their back 7 is good. I really like Darius Slay. Tabor will help. I think the Lions needed someone with a bit of pizzazz and just. I feel it feels like the Lions have a lot of tools and they should be better than the Packers, but something is holding them back from beating the Packers. Like they haven't beaten the Packers since forever. And I don't know if this draft put them over the top. So I'm going to give them a C for that. I think not sure that I think they need a little bit more. They need something. It's hard to explain. They need a statement player, and they didn't.
Basically, what Kev's saying is they don't have any sexy players.
Well, and even if you look, they could at that instead of Gerard Davis, Charles Harris was there. Even a guy, Takiris McKinley, Taco, TJ Watt, Reuben Foster.
Yeah, they could have went with a defensive end, obviously, but I think they felt like middle linebacker was a bigger need.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say sexy. I would say swagger. I think the Lions lack a little bit of swagger on the defensive side. I think Stafford has some swagger on the offensive side. I think
Slay does, but besides that,
Yeah,
I don't really know.
Slay does for sure.
That does. Anyways, Billy, any other comments or no?
No, I think we've about covered it.
All right, let's go to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are a team that I know Mr. Adam already said that he enjoyed this draft. Going over their draft, obviously you needed corners,
Safety.
and more corners.
And defense.
You also needed defense. You also needed someone to stop the pass. You also needed someone to rush the passer. You also just needed defense.
Everything that has to do with defense.
So what you're saying is they needed defense.
Yeah, basically. You know what I mean? I thought I made that pretty clear.
I don't know.
So in the second round with the first pick, because they traded back, they picked Kevin King, 6'3", 200 pounds, from Washington. I think this was a pretty good pick. I really like the guy's size. Obviously, the measurables are awesome. He kind of has some versatility. He can also play a little bit of free safety. Overall, he has a great ability to press because he's so big. So that's going to help them. I think that, they obviously needed the corner, and I think this was probably the best guy at the time, especially to help them right away. You could argue that Sidney Jones might be better in the long run, but King right now is ready to go, and this is a team that's looking to go to the Super Bowl, so they need him on the field week 1. So I think that does make them better week 1, that pick. Josh Jones, basically here, they already have 2 pretty good safeties in Clinton-Dix, which has the best name in the NFL. And they also have Burnett at the strong safety, both pretty solid safeties. I think Clinton-Dix is a good player. He's probably one of the only good players on their defense. And then you look at, they lost Micah Hyde. So this guy comes in and he can do basically what Micah Hyde does, but he's actually kind of he plays kind of some corner before. He's played safety. So that's basically what Micah Hyde was. So they bring him in. He might not be able to return kicks like Micah Hyde, but he does pretty much everything else. He's around the same size, and that's what they were trying to go for here. So that's a replacement pick. At the 3rd round, they have Adams, a D tackle. Don't really understand that pick. They've been okay against the run. They can scheme against the run. We've seen it before, but they, in my opinion, they lost Julius Peppers. Clay Matthews has not been the same guy rushing the passer. They don't have much rushing the passer. I think they needed somebody there, which I don't think they got. They got Jamal Williams from BYU in the 4th round at running back. They needed a running back desperately. Be interesting to see how much he plays in his first season, because I think Montgomery is a solid, talented player, but I don't think he's a number 1 running back, and I still think they need to address that. In my opinion, they should go after LeGarrette Blount and sign him, but that's just how I feel. So, yeah, they addressed the corner. They addressed the safety. But I would have liked to see them address pass rush and maybe some offensive line, because they lost 2 offensive linemen in free agency. So I'm going to give them a B.
Yeah, I liked it to a degree. I really like the Kevin King pick from Washington. He's solid. And as Mitch stressed so many times, they need defense, but especially this cornerback help. It was just god awful, and it pretty much killed them in the the NFC Championship game. So, I think a guy like Kevin King can come in here and do a bunch of impact. Of course, along with Josh Jones, who was a solid pick at safety, the Micah Hyde replacement, basically. He gets tested a lot, so that's going to be good, and I think it's going to help out Green Bay. Some other picks I like. Jamal Williams was a solid pick. I still feel like Mitch. I think they could go for LeGarrette Blount. That would be a solid pick, but I still think this is very nice. Overall, I'm going with the B. I feel like they had some really good picks, especially King and Jones, but they could have gotten a little bit more of that defensive line help. So that's what I'm going to put there.
I'm gonna give them an A, because I'm really as you can see how my draft grades are working. I really like teams that are on the are going to be NFC champion, Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. The Packers are that team. And what you do is you take your weakest position and you get two guys that will play a lot of time again right away in Jones and King. So that's what kind of pushes them over the top. Why I quickly go to A. And then you get Adams, because I'm looking at the D tackles. Obviously, they just got John Francois. But other than that, LaTroy Guion is 30. Mike Daniels, Kenny Clark.
Mike Daniels is really good. He's kind of a DN though.
For sure. And because they actually don't even have a DN, technically DN, because they play, I guess, a wide they play like a 3-4 like amoeba. So you can probably put what's the guy's name? You can put Adams anywhere on that line. Vince Beagle was interesting because a lot of the talk was TJ Watt going to the Packers.
Yeah, he's from Wisconsin, so.
And he rushes on the other side of TJ Watt and didn't get as much play, but he can be a decent player. I think that's going to be a pick that we might have to watch out for because all the talk was around TJ Watt, but he had put some very good numbers on the other side of TJ Watt on that end. Is similar to TJ Watt. Obviously, he's about a 3 to 4 round different than TJ Watt. But I don't mind that pick. I think they did what they needed to do in their first 2 picks, which was enough. And then you get some depth guys on that defense because I'm not really worried about their offense this year. Especially, we always forget, they added Bennett. So now they have a tight end on top of that.
The only thing I'm worried about their offense is their offensive line. Their offensive line was one of the best in the NFL last year, and they lost a couple key pieces there. So I would be a little bit concerned with that. I actually don't see the Packers making the Super Bowl. I don't think they can. Their defense is just not.
They'll struggle to make the playoffs.
They'll make the playoffs, but their defense is just not good enough. And if they do make the Super Bowl, it's because the rest of the teams aren't very good. Like, let's be honest. I just don't see them doing it. And if you're a Packers fan, sorry, man, but like Aaron Rodgers is fantastic and he can carry any team in the league probably to the playoffs. But like their defense was so bad last year and it's just gotten even worse. And their offensive line is worse. I think the Martellus Bennett pickup is way overrated. Like I just did not like the Packers offseason. And this draft does help a little bit. But I just don't see them making the Super Bowl.
Well, no one, you know what? Look what they did with an even crappier defense. You can say that I guess they lose Hyde, lack of Peppers, yeah, but still, like it's not like those guys were making tons of plays, keeping them games. It's their offense. They have a similar team. Obviously, a lot of teams got better, but I still think you can't count out Rodgers, which, obviously regular season, I'll put them up to Brady, just below Brady. Obviously Brady ahead, but regular season and even the playoffs he shows. But it just got to a point like look what they beat Dallas, who is a great team.
Yeah,
and then they lose to Atlanta because Atlanta's offense was that potent, and it got to the point where Rodgers couldn't do that much. But I think each season Rodgers can do enough to get you into the playoffs to help you.
I think yeah, they might go to the playoffs. They might win one game. But the only way I see them going to the Super Bowl is if the other teams just have too many holes. Like last year, there was Atlanta, and I thought the rest of the teams had a bunch of holes in the NFC, and that's just how I felt. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and you could say, too, that some of those players are a year older. You know what I mean? They had, Randall's a year older. I think Bryce is going to be a better player this year. So, you could maybe bank on the whole just experience thing. Some of these guys being a year older in the NFL that could make them better than they did.
Maybe, yeah.
For me, I really actually like this draft. I want to give it a close to an A. Like the Kevin King pick, he's going to be a solid. Like the Josh Jones pick, I think Adams will be underrated. But they also did fill some offensive roles here. They got a couple of running backs. I think that they've given themselves options to move Ty Montgomery in a number of different ways. They do have already an excellent receiving core, but I think D'Angelo Yancey will be an interesting pick. I think they did really well. Actually, I'm not saying that the Packers are are the master Super Bowl favorites. I don't necessarily think that, but I think the Packers did well enough. I mean, I would agree that I think they should have picked up some offensive line help. They didn't here, but we'll have to see. This offensive line, it really depended on people's perspective, because there was a lot of scouts that were not a big fan of the offensive line and thought at best it would have been a second to third round grades for a lot of these offensive linemen, and some did like them. So I guess it really depended on your perspective.
And recently they did sign Ja'Ari Evans, who's kind of he's been on New Orleans for the last, I think, 8 years. So they added at least him. Obviously, it doesn't make up for what they've lost, but Ja'Ari Evans is a pretty solid NFL guard in my opinion.
All right, is that all?
That's all.
All right. Let's go to the next team. The Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota had an interesting draft because they didn't have a first-round pick. Of course, if we factor in their first-round pick was the Sammy Biscuits in the first round, the most accurate quarterback in NFL history.
Sammy Sleeves.
Ask the record book. Then the second round, Dalvin Cook. I like this pick. No, it wasn't their most pressing need, but I think Dalvin Cook in the second round is a great pick. I don't care what his measurables were at the combine. Turn on the tape and watch the guy cut through a hole. He's explosive. I think he's a lot better player than Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is solid, but I don't think he has the potential to be a star like Dalvin Cook does. And those two guys will be awesome for the Vikings offense. I think Cook fits perfectly in that scheme offensively. He can also catch the ball, which will help them. So I like the two-headed punch they have at running back now. Help slow the game down against teams like the Lions and the Packers. They really needed offensive line. So in the third round, they picked a center. I really liked I know that they signed Ramers and they let go of Khalil in free agency, but I think they probably should have addressed this offensive line more. I know they didn't have that many picks, so it's kind of hard to do. Defensive tackle, kind of an interesting pick in the fourth round. Some insurance for Sharif Floyd, but yeah, like defensive tackle to me on the Vikings already seems pretty good, pretty solid, at least for now. But the only pick that I really like I understand the third round pick. I really like the Dalvin Cook pick. So overall, I'm going to give him like a C+ because I didn't think anything else really stood out to me. They went guard later on in the draft. And then they pretty much went all over the board. Corner, linebacker, D-line, wide receiver, tight end. They pretty much covered all the bases. But to me, they needed offensive line really badly. They needed a running back. They needed maybe like a D-end, but that was about it. So the Vikings are a pretty solid team. If they had like a top-tier quarterback, we'd be talking about a Super Bowl caliber team, in my opinion.
I like what they did with Dalvin Cook. Of course, a lot of people were thinking he could be in the first round. So to get him in the second round in the 41st pick of the draft, the absolute steal. I don't think it was their biggest need, but I mean, look at the running backs that were there last season. They were absolute garbage. And even with Murray, you got to look at it and be like, well, this is an investment pick. Dalvin Cook could easily do something pretty good in Minnesota, and I like him in the scheme. So I like that, and I also like the pick of Pat Elflein from Ohio State. But the rest of these picks to me were like, I don't know if they got the best value, just like Chicago, although I don't think they bombed as hard. I think they did a decent job at getting who they wanted to get, but I don't know if that was the best decision. They got the inside linebacker, Ben Gideon, in the fourth round. I'm giving him a C+. I did like the Dalvin Cook pick, and I really like the Pat Elflein pick, but the rest were like kind of middle of the road for me.
Sorry to cut you guys off, but this is interesting. I just saw this on Twitter. The Patriots signed an undrafted linebacker, Harvey Lange from BYU. I don't know if you know who this is, but they gave him $100K guaranteed when every other guy got no more than 30K. So is this guy like really good, or like I don't understand like why they gave him this much money like this?
Hush money.
Interesting.
A lot.
All right, go ahead, guys.
Minnesota, it's a C+ draft class, but I'll give them a C because giving up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford was probably maybe the worst trade of the year for anyone. To give up at the beginning of the year, they traded a first-round pick for Bradford, and they thought they were going to playoff team. They had the thing, and they finished 8-8, and ended up being the 14th worst team in the league. And
but they're not going to have a quarterback either this year. They wouldn't have Bridgewater this year either, so it's 2 years. Yeah, I know it was the first round. I wouldn't give it a first-round pick for him, but like 2 years for a quarterback, and you think you're a good team. Like I don't hate it.
Okay, if you a first-round pick for, I couldn't even tell you, but there's probably a lot of other quarterbacks I'd take before Bradford to be.
Sure.
Bradford can't.
If Kirk Cousins was on the market and I could have gotten Kirk Cousins, then I would have been mad. Yeah.
So that starts it off. Dalvin Cook. This is probably the first time. I do like the pick, but this is probably the first time off-field issues has helped out like a team. You know what I mean? Like maybe you could say that with the Bengals because there were a lot of concerns with Dalvin Cook's not criminal or anything, just his off-the-field antics, not being the greatest teammate. Or a lot of people said, he wasn't the guy there in the morning till that late at night, right? He kind of just showed up and did his thing. Hopefully that changed in the NFL, but a great pick. You put him with Murray. I think that's a good 1-2 punch because Cook can play. I think is more versatile than Murray. I think if you're looking at just a pure running back between the tackles, Cook's your guy. I really like their second-round pick, Elflin. I actually think he's better than who the Seahawks took about 10 picks prior. I thought Elflin was the better center in this draft. We'll get into that later, but I think he was a bit better than the guy from LSU. And then the rest of it's just, a lot of fourth picks. And then they probably had, it looks like they had 5 seventh-round picks. Maybe you hit on one, but I couldn't really tell you that much about them. So just with, not having a first-round pick and then only really having 2 picks that really stand out against you, that's why it's a C+ in my book, maybe even a C.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good. I'm going to give it a B. I like the Dalvin Cook-Murray combination. Will help Sam Bradford. I'm not a Sam Bradford fan, but there's a lot of weapons on that Minnesota offense. Eiflin, I think, and Johnson, and if Zadora, I think, will provide depth to the offensive line. We'll talk about Eiflin versus Pochek when we get to the Seahawks. So I think a B. They added a little bit of help on defense. Who knows with Sam Bradford? He hasn't really been. This guy hasn't been on a. Like, to be fair to this guy, this was last year. He just moved. He hasn't had a full year with a team that was as good as the Vikings. So he may be better this year. I'd be willing to give him a chance. Would I have given up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford? No, but you were also pretty desperate at the time for a quarterback because your franchise quarterback was done for 2 seasons. So overall, considering all that, I think I'm going to give the Vikings a B. I think it was a solid draft.
Okay, so that's the NFC North. Let's get into the NFC South and let's go to the NFC champions. The Atlanta Falcons. In the first round, they picked McKinley, the defensive end from UCLA. Now, my only concern with McKinley is he's a little small. He's 6'2", 250, but then if you look at Vic Beasley, he's pretty small as well. They love their speed rushers. Of course, they play that Seahawks style of defense. And this is a guy that can come on and he can start basically day one at least being a third down pass rusher. He has a ton of speed. He can play, 3-4 outside linebacker or 4-3 end, which he's going to play 4-3 end now. You can have him with Vic Beasley on the opposite side and rush on third downs, and they needed that other third down pass rusher. As we saw in the Super Bowl, Vic Beasley kind of got, shut down, and they really were exhausted at the end of the game when Tom Brady was just ripping them apart. They were great at the beginning, especially from the interior rush, but the edge rush was not very good in that Super Bowl, and that was part of the reason why they lost that game. So McKinley comes in, and I think he'll provide a boost there. Duke Riley is an interesting pick, another very Seahawks organization type pick. Athletic linebacker, can play in coverage. He played a lot of special teams in college, but it's going to be interesting. He's not going to play a lot in his first couple of seasons, I don't think. I think their linebackers are already kind of decent, and they're very young, but they're pretty decent already. But Duke Riley can kind of come in there and provide some depth for them, at least, the first season, and then maybe he'll grow into something else later on. Harlow is a guard that they really needed a right guard specifically, and they went out and this guy could compete for a starting job day one. That's a big thing for them, so I really like that pick. I did think that the one negative here is that they didn't address their secondary, basically. In the 5th round, they did pick a cornerback, but that's the 5th round. I don't think he's not going to start right away. They kind of need a corner. They are getting Trufant back, but Collins to me did not play well last year. Who's the slot corner is pretty good. I always forget. Alford is okay. The other guy, Poole is okay.
Yeah.
But I need another outside corner because Alford and Poole are very small and they're kind of slot corners. I feel like you're going to have Trufant back, he's excellent, but the other side with Collins is weak. So I think they could have drafted a corner on that side. But besides that, I thought this was a very good draft for the Falcons. Again, I'm going to give them a B+.
I love the McKinley pick. I think it's a very solid pick, and it was worth your money. I mean, at the pick 26, I think it's very solid, and he just brings something to that defensive line that could really put some pressure. He's faster, and he's got some ability. He can be like a 3-4 outside linebacker kind of feel. I know it's going to be different. There's a 4-3, but I think it's a solid pick. As the rest of their draft goes, I'm not as sold as Mitch is, but I do like Duke Riley, linebacker at in round 3. I think that was a nice pick. Some decent pieces put together. Kazee, I believe that's how you say that, the cornerback, is a decent pick in round 5. I don't think he's going to be starting anytime soon or make that much of an impact in the near future, but he could be a pick later on that could help that side of the ball. But I think targets McKinley automatically proves this grade up because he's just a solid pick and solid worth at pick 26. I'm going with B. I don't feel B+, but I feel like they did do enough to get what they wanted. Just would have liked some solid, more solid work in the cornerback safety department.
Yeah, I'm going B as well. I'm not with you guys in the sense that I actually think the Falcons, for how young those guys were, didn't play that bad. I think the DBs can't cover forever.
No, I think they're going to be very good. I think their defense is actually going to be improved this year.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying I think that corner spot was bad. I like their linebackers. I like at least one of their safeties. Beasley, I don't think will ever be as good. This is going to be his best season ever. I don't think he's going to be
not a fan of
better than that. I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's very good.
Well, but even if you look at how this draft, I think DN pass rush was number 1. You get that with the first pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you don't have a pick till the 3rd round, right? Where all those top kind of corners, I think they probably saw a little more value in Riley because he's a guy that could do everything, and probably you can put him in different sub packages. Then, from what I'm reading about Sean Harlow, he's a guy that probably can start for you, so that's great. And then Kazee, it says here that he has potential to play as a nickel or obviously a dime corner. But I'm not. It's a B, but I think that secondary is going to be better than even last year. And I think more the pass rush was the issue rather than that secondary, because I did like how the Falcons defense played at times last year, especially in the playoffs. They made enough big plays, obviously not enough for the last half an hour of playing, but
in the NFC divisional game and the NFC championship, they were great.
Yeah. That's why. And I just think how the draft played out, not having a 2nd round pick, you go with the DN, and then after that, I think it's just who can help you right away. And maybe just a corner wasn't there that they thought that could help them till the 5th round.
I'm going to give this draft a C, and I have it's interesting to me that this guy that everybody is sold on, that was the Seahawks 26 pick, and they backed away from this guy, which tells me there's some red flags about this guy. I don't know if he's as good as people are going to say he is. I like the Harlow pick. I understand. I think the linebacker pick was good. We get to the Seahawks. I think this seemed like a Seahawk type of player, but they didn't pick him.
There's no way that they would draft a DN anyways. They weren't even looking at McKinley. Why would the Seahawks draft a DN at that pick?
They were going best player available. I will tell you that.
Yeah. According to what? Seattle Times or something? What?
Well, according to a number of Seattle people. Well, that's who I follow. So I'm gonna.
No, I know, but they're obviously going to be the best player available. Like, come on. They weren't going to take a D end if that wasn't. They were looking at corners, and I guess they didn't like their tackles, which they should have taken a tackle. But we'll get to Seahawks when we get to Seahawks.
Anyway, not a fan of McKinley, really not as big a fan as everyone else. I agree with Mitch.
I'm a fan of him because he fits their scheme perfectly. That's why.
Yeah. Beasley had some games where he got like 3 or 4 sacks in a game, and there was other games he was completely invisible. So not sure where I'm at with Beasley. Not entirely sold on this Atlanta Falcons team, to be completely honest with you. I think they're about to take a step back. So I will give him a C.
Most teams do. Most teams do after reaching the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers. This was a explosive draft, to say the least. My buddy, my good friend Brett, is a big Panthers fan. And he was here watching the Panthers draft with us. He didn't want to say anything, but he just loved the first pick. I think he already ordered his jersey. Christian McCaffrey at number 8 overall is their new running back for the Carolina Panthers out of Stanford, of course. This is a guy that he is, to me, like Reggie Bush. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. And he's just an explosive playmaker. Now, he's not the best, between the tackles runner, but he has proven to be really good at it. But I just think this guy is so explosive when you get the ball in his hands. He can run routes like a receiver. He was the best guy at running routes in the entire combine, and he's a running back. I mean, you could play him like Edelman if you want in the slot. You could play him like Bush in the backfield. You could do a lot of different things with McCaffrey. And I think no matter if he's a 1,000-yard back or not, he's still going to be a great player because he can do all these different things. And that's like almost a no-risk pick unless he gets injured. So McCaffrey, I love his vision. I loved him in college. So much versatility. It's amazing. And the guy works really, really hard. So I think it's a great first-round pick with little risk. Then in the second round, you have Curtis Samuel, which is a little bit different in terms of risk. This is the only reason I don't like this pick is that he's too similar to your first pick, but I also like it because you needed explosion on your offense. I've been screaming at the Panthers. I made a rant video about the Panthers last season about how they're not good on offense and how they don't have playmakers for Cam and how they're really slow at the wide receiver position. Curtis Samuel is a playmaker. Now, he's not the greatest route runner. He doesn't have the best hands, but when you get the ball in his hands, he can make plays, and after the catch, he's explosive. So for me, giving Cam these two type of explosive weapons that when they get the ball in their hands, they can take it the distance every time. Plus, you match Samuel up, whether you're playing him at second or third wide receiver, we'll see. With a huge guy like Benjamin and a huge guy like Funchess, it's a nice compliment there. He also replaces what you had in Ted Ginn, so that's good. They needed help along the offensive line. They went guard in the second round again. That was a nice piece there because they needed offensive line. I do think that they needed tackle more than guard, though, so that's kind of interesting. But obviously they felt that he was the best guy there. He can play right tackle. He can play guard. It's going to be interesting, though. I'm not sold on him as a tackle, so we'll see what happens. They also needed defensive end. They let go of Coney Ely. They got Deshaun Hall in the third round from Texas A&M, the guy that played alongside Myles Garrett. He is a little small, which is concerning to me. He is 6'5", but he's 266. If he puts a little bit more size on, I think he'll be very solid. Charles Johnson is getting really old, and he's just not that good anymore. And they really didn't have a great pass rush last year. I think he's going to be, a pretty good player. I don't see him being like an all-star or anything, but I think he'll be a starter in the NFL. So that's another good pick for them. They needed corner. They went to the guy Elder in Miami. So that they did that in the 5th round. I just think they addressed most of the things that they needed in this draft. They needed explosion on offense. They needed corner and defensive end help. They needed offensive linemen. So I'm going to give the Panthers an A for their draft. I was impressed with what they did, and usually I'm not impressed with the Panthers.
But they didn't do anything to their defense, which was their worst part of their team last year.
They signed a lot of free agents on defense this year. So, I understand, but their offense was concerning too. Their offense was not good.
But they were 7th ranked in total points and 12th in yards in defensive stats.
I think that they drafted all defense last year. They signed a couple of defensive guys in the free agency. I think that this draft complements what they've done well. So that's why I'm going to give them an A. You can disagree with me.
So in this draft, I think the Panthers did something that I wanted them to do, and is get a little bit more intimidating. Of course, with the Panthers 2 years ago, they had something there, and last season was an absolute debacle. So where do you go from here? McCaffrey is so explosive. I mean, this guy can run anything you possibly want to. And not to mention, congratulations to the white running back. When is the last time we've seen that? It's been a while. So to McCaffrey, I mean, it's awesome. And he's a very, very good player, a lot of skill, and really complements the style of Cam Newton, who's also a really good runner in his own right. Curtis Samuel, great wide receiver out of Ohio State. I feel like he complements it as well with that more explosiveness. Kelvin Benjamin can run more of the deep routes, and Curtis Samuel can run more fast routes and make more explosive plays. I think that was a good decision on their part. Deshaun Hall, who I've seen quite a bit of, is a solid complement to the Carolina Panthers, especially in round 3. I know you can't compare to Myles Garrett, but still very talented, and it will work really well with the Panthers and what they're doing. They got Corn Elder, who's one of my favorite names in the draft. With the cornerback helps them out there. So I'm giving them an A-. I think I really enjoyed what they did, and they got really explosive players, which I think is key for this Panthers team that's been kind of lethargic here. So A-.
Yeah, I'm giving them a B- just because they didn't really address their defense. Because if you're looking at those free agents that they signed, Captain Munnerlyn, Mike Adams, and Julius Peppers, those are the 3 guys that you bring in to completely change your defense. I just don't think that's enough. Christian McCaffrey, how can you pass on him? Unbelievable pick. Samuel, unbelievable pick. Really like that. If this was a 2-round grade, they would be very high. I don't think they did enough with that defense. And maybe I'll still give you McCaffrey there, but Samuel and that second pick, I guess 40th overall, I think they could have got a good corner that can play right away and help them out. Because I know they drafted those. They had 2 rookie cornerbacks that play last year, but I don't think that helped them out playing them right away because they got torched a lot, especially they have to go against Winston and Mariota. So,
Ryan.
They got to go against Breeze.
Yeah, I said Breeze. The second person I said.
You said Mariota.
Yeah, I said, did you not hear me? I said Winston, Breeze, Mariota.
Yeah, but I think you meant Ryan, not Mariota.
Yeah.
Mariota's not in their division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so I misspoke. I misspoke there.
That's okay. No. I'm just helping you out, man.
I appreciate it. But I'm just saying their defense is still going to stink this year, and they're going to have to put up 50 points a game for them to be able to contend in this division.
They not a fan of their defense. I'm kind of with Adam. I want to give them a B. I like the McCaffrey and Samuel picks. They do need some offensive help. They needed some defensive help. I just don't think Carolina is as good as people think they are. I mean,
no, that was the problem here. I think they're just not good. So no matter what they did, they're going to improve, but they can't improve everywhere. That's the thing about this draft. You know?
I think that there were some options to help him out on defense, but they just didn't do it. So I'm not necessarily entirely sold on them. I'm going to give him a B.
Okie dokie. So we went to the Panthers. Who is next here?
New Orleans.
Yes. New Orleans Saints at number 1 in the first round. They had 2 first-round picks. They picked Lattimore, the cornerback, the top corner on Adams' draft board from Ohio State, expected to go in the top 5. Slid to number 11, perfectly right in the hands of the Saints. Now, this was rather going to be Lattimore or it was going to be Malcolm Butler. So they got Lattimore with the first-round pick. Solid pick here. He was the best corner in the draft. Has really good ball skills. Rarely gets beat in college at least. Ohio State was a very good defense. He's the prototypical size, 6 feet, 193. Has pretty much everything you could do. Kind of looks like, according to Mike Mayock, looks kind of like Aqib Talib. So that's solid. Ryan Ramczyk and the offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Wisconsin always produces great offensive linemen. This is interesting, though, because I believe Ramczyk is a little bit older, which that does concern me. If you are really good in college, you're not going to come out that old. And you've seen that before with the Eagles pick in the first round, the Canadian. He was pretty old and he didn't turn out. But they do need to protect Drew Brees. And their offensive line used to be very good. In their heyday, like 2009 to 2011, they had a fantastic offensive line. And that's kind of slid off a little bit. They needed to get back to that. They drafted a first round. That was from the Patriots pick for Brandon Cooks. Now, is he Brandon Cooks? It's a totally different position, but no, probably not. But he does offer something, and he does offer protection for Drew Brees. In the second round, Marcus Williams, safety. He was also a guy that was kind of in the second round just because this safety class was so loaded. I like this pick because I think he would have been, near the top of the second, near even the first round in a normal draft because the safety class was so loaded. So I thought that pick was good, and they addressed the secondary once again. Like if I was the Saints, I would be doing this exact plan. Secondary. We don't want to get torched anymore. Let's try maybe an offensive lineman. The thing about the 32 pick is they were actually wanting to pick Foster, but the pick before them, they were actually on the phone with him, and he hung up on them, and then he went to the 49ers. So they were going to pick Foster there, but they went with their second option. Kamara is a really talented guy from Tennessee in the third round. It is a little bit interesting to me.
Did he cut out again?
Cut out?
This guy's been cutting out all video.
Kamara was interesting. I think he was going to say because they have Peterson and Ingram. But I think they'll use Kamara more in third down from what I'm seeing.
I'm not a big fan of that pick. I think they're way too loaded on running back. Especially
they didn't need it. But yeah, I like Kamara though. Any other team, I would have liked him. But there, it looks like he's gonna just sit. He's gonna go
at best, he's gonna be used as a reliability in a third down situation. I don't know. You got AP and you got Mark Ingram, he's very talented. I just don't get it.
And the one thing I'll say, I have the Saints a B+ because they've almost had one of maybe the best off seasons. They needed help with their defense. I don't think we can even say that. I don't think they have to worry that much. Obviously, you lose Cooks, but I think with the emergence of Mike Thomas, they'll be fine on offense. Guys they brought in, Manti Te'o, say what you want, but still, he's probably got some football left in him. Maybe not great football, but decent football. And another guy they brought in was Alex Okafor, too, from Arizona. I don't mind that. And then what you do is you get pretty much 2 starters in one that are going to play right away and play well enough. Marshawn Lattimore is going to get, a welcome to the league very quick, going against Mike Evans or Julio Jones. He's going to have to grow up really quick. But still, what they did with this draft, getting starters and then getting Ramczyk to protect Breeze, they're setting up for another run. I don't know if it's this year because you can say maybe Breeze has 2-3 max years left. So it looks like they're trying to build something for a run in the next 3 years.
Yeah, the Marshall and Lattimore pick is incredible. I love this pick, especially at 11. It's along with Malik Hooker back in the AFC with Indianapolis for it kind of fell in our laps. And New Orleans Saints defense was god awful. I could not stand them last year. Along with Atlanta, who was in their same division, they had nothing to show for it, and they got Lattimore. Ramczyk was a good pick for the 32 pick. If the Foster thing is true, like Mitch said, that would have been great. But I think they got what they could have gotten based off of that pick after that situation all went down. Who else did they get here? Marcus Williams, I think, was a solid pick in round 2. I like that out of Utah. Utah is good. Kamara, again, good running back. I like him, but way too much talent in the running back department already for them. And it's a waste of a pick, in my opinion, unless if Ingram leaves or AP doesn't do as well. I don't know. Overall, I'm going to give them a B+. I think they addressed some of their key issues. They got their big cornerback. They got a nice safety in Marcus Williams. And overall, I think they improved on a very lacking defense.
And I'll quickly just give them credit, too, for picking up 2 linebackers. I don't know much about them. Hendred sits from Florida Atlantic, and then Alex Anzalone from Florida. You're getting 2 third-round linebackers that you need linebacker help. I couldn't tell you exactly who these guys are, but 2 guys in one's early 3rd round, the other guy's a little later 3rd round, but still, if you hit on one, they focus on their defense. And I agree with you. The Kamara pick, it wasn't really needed. It's kind of almost like a waste of a pick in a way, but if they don't think Peterson and Ingram can get it done on 3rd down out of the backfield, because I know we've talked, Ingram catches 50 passes out of being the running back since, Bush left and Sproles left. But, I feel like I could catch 40 passes in that offense from the running back position. So I think Kamara steps it up a bit.
This is the problem I have. Why don't they go and be like, hey, man, to the Patriots, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for Dion Lewis?
Yeah, it would probably have been easier. Yeah, I really like Kamara. I really want the Eagles to take him. He was one of those running backs that I think he could be a starter on a lot of these teams. And now you're sitting behind 2 guys that aren't going anywhere. Well, Peterson, who knows? But Ingram's done enough that his running back position is his. You're going to be, I think what?
I don't understand this running back situation. Like, if I'm a fantasy guy, and looking at the fantasy draft this year, I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to draft Ingram? Like, I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if Peterson's going to play. I don't know what Kamara is going to play on 3rd down. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. For me, I appreciated that they built their secondary. I actually don't have a problem with this Kamara pick. Peterson's really injury prone. If we remember last year, he was out. He was out a couple of years ago. He hasn't been necessarily been able to stay on the field. So I'm not necessarily as upset about that. I don't know. I wonder if Peterson's actually going to make the team. I'm partially wondering that.
He's being paid like one of the most amount of money for a running back, so I think he's going to make the team.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high reward for sure, and I think they know that. I think my big concern with the Saints is and I like Ramczyk, but they needed also help on the front 7, and they didn't necessarily do that as much as they could have. I understand the Reuben Foster situation, but there were some other pieces around there that they could have picked up. So I'm going to give them a C. Good. Like, the Lattimore pick was an excellent pick. Really like that, but I do think that they needed to help themselves out more on the front 7 than they did.
All right, who's next? I've kind of lost everything. I had to reset my entire internet and everything.
Your voice is
you're cutting out. The next one is Tampa Bay.
Should I just leave?
If you have to, yeah, because it's not getting better. I'll start Actually, Adam, if you wanted to, because I don't have the picks up here.
Okay, well, I'll get the picks here.
I got the
Just
picks.
another thing, Kev. I feel like the Saints, if anything in their defense, it is their front four on the defensive side. No, that's where all their talent is on that team, on the defensive side already.
I don't think they're very talented at any end of that defense. I mean,
Nick Fairley, Cameron Jordan still, isn't Jordan there?
yeah, he's okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've never been a big fan of the Saints defense.
Their defense is not my biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I have the picks here. So Tampa Bay, they went interesting in the first round. They went and picked O.J. Howard, who me and Adam especially are huge fans of. Mitch has said he was the second best. He thinks Njoku's better. We like Njoku as well, but we very high on O.J. Howard. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of strengths in him. And for Tampa Bay, that's already got explosive weapons like Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, that's huge. Like, that's a really good pickup in O.J. Howard. In the second round, they went and got Justin Evans out of Texas A&M. I can tell you from experience, the guy's got quickness, 6 foot, 199 is what he's labeled at, and I think he's very aggressive. So that's something that they want, and for a defensive player, that's what they kind of need. Chris Godwin, wide receiver, again, another explosive guy in the third round, I think is a decent pickup and could make some bigger catches for them. As Mitch is back on once again, hopefully the audio
is it better now?
There
Yep.
it is.
Sound like Mitch.
So for Tampa Bay, I think they went and got explosive people and tried to help themselves out here. I'm giving them a B+. I love the O.J. Howard pick. I think it's one of the better picks in terms of where teams were placed at in the draft in the first round. Like, they made a really good choice here with O.J. Howard. Justin Evans, I love, and Chris Godwin could do some stuff. And even the last three picks from, a guy from LSU, Kendall Beckwith, some good picks. So I'm going B+.
Yeah, I'm going B+ as well, just because that O.J. Howard kind of falls in their lap. Even with Cameron Brate now, that's a pretty nice 2 tight end on that offense. Justin Evans I really like for the safety because he's a free safety, so more of a roamer, can take the whole center field, has good range. I wasn't really sold on the Chris Godwin out of Penn State. I guess you just add another weapon, but, still very solid. And then they just picked up some good depth players in Beckwith, McNichols, Stevie T from USC. All in all, it was a good draft because, Tampa Bay is getting a lot better. And, for them, your first 2 picks, you're getting a guy that's going to start at you for safety, and then you're getting maybe an all-star tight end. That's good enough for me, especially with a team that's getting better like the Bucs. So I'm going B+ as well.
All right. For me, for the Bucs, hopefully I don't cut out. O.J. Howard is pick number 19, first round. That, like you guys said, kind of fell in their lap. Easy pick for them, but it was a good pick. And I give them, a lot of credit for that. 19th overall, that was a steal. This guy could potentially be a Pro Bowler every single year. You team him up with Cameron Brate. You know how I love my 2 tight end sets. So I think that gives a lot of flexibility to your offense, whether it's the run game, whether it's the pass game. That's great. Justin Evans, interesting pick, safety. They did need a safety. They had none last year. I think they had Chris Conti was their best safety. So this will help them. Chris Godwin, wide receiver from Penn State. Yeah, they needed that third receiver because they don't really have that third receiver. So I understand the pick. I just wish they would have maybe addressed the interior, the defensive end position. They need a pass rusher or maybe the corner, or even a running back. They did get one at the end of the end of the draft, but I thought this was an overall pretty solid draft. I'll give it a B.
Yeah, I'll give it a B too. I think that the Howards. I think you guys said that Howard was a steal. Evans will be interesting. He misses a lot of tackles too, so high risk, high reward. Do you think they should have worked on corner a little bit more? But I think Tampa's the best team in the division, so that's my personal opinion.
All right, interesting enough.
All right, so let's go to the NFC West, where we start off with the Arizona Cardinals. This is, of course, the division of the Kevol. Before we get to the NFC West, there's a question from Noel who says, who is the rookie of the year? Who do you guys think for offense and defense?
Wait, that's a tough decision, my man. Oh. I feel like offense, McCaffrey could do wonders for them and really put an impact. Defense, I gotta be cheesy and say Garrett, just because he's on a Browns team that really is not going to be great. I think their best chance at their best record could be 5-11, but he can make some explosive plays and show why he's a really good caliber defensive end. So those are my two picks.
Yeah, I'll go either Fournette because I think he's going to be a beast, and he's just going to get the ball a ton.
Yeah.
Or OJ Howard, because I think OJ Howard for these offensive players are
tight
in a
end.
good,
Wow.
Yeah, is in a good position. Well, because you look at Mike Williams and Chargers, yeah, and then you look at some of the other running backs. Yeah, they're going to McCaffrey's a good one. And then on the defense, speaking of Arizona, Hassan Riddick, I'm going defensive player. Defensive rookie of the year, just because their division's so weak that he's going to be spotlighted a lot.
I'm thinking about who's going to be defensive rookie of the year, because my offensive rookie of the year is going to be Deshaun Watson.
That's mine too.
Whoa!
I think he's going to start very soon, and I think like Dak Prescott, everybody's going to be showering praise, because I think he's going to be kind of a touchdown, like he'll have those games where he gets like 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, and he'll have those games where he's like, he won't turn the ball over a lot, I think, and that will help him kind of like Dak Prescott, and then like just leading the team, for the Texans. I think he's going to be that rookie of the year. On offense, for defense, I think it's going to be, I really want to say Myles Garrett, just so the Cleveland Browns can have something to cheer for. So I'm going to say Myles Garrett. I'll say that he has 10 sacks, and that will win him the defensive rookie of the year.
I'm going to say Reuben Foster.
Reuben.
Yep. We're going to get into why about here quickly.
Okay.
I see Myles Garrett getting traded for a 4th-round pick to the Patriots in like 4 years, and then he's going to that's how it's going to work out.
Kev, did you have any reasoning for your offensive and defensive?
I agree with you. I think Watson's going to start, and I think he's going to. If he doesn't start, he's going to start by the second or third game, and roll. And the 49ers are going to be the 49ers are my surprise team for the NFC. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. And I think that's because of their linebacking core. So, that's why I'm going Foster.
You raised one eyebrow.
Okay, let's go with another linebacker, Hassan Riddick. First round, 13th pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Love this pick. This guy is a new age linebacker. He can cover those tight ends. He can play basically outside. He can rush the passer. He was a converted safety, I think, and then he played like DN, played linebacker. He could pretty much play everything. So this is the versatility that the Cardinals absolutely love, of course. And with more versatility comes Budda Baker, because they got another guy that is similar to Tyrann Mathieu already. He's 5'10", 195. He can play some corner. He can play strong safety. He can play free safety. So he could pretty much play everything too. You pair him up with Mathieu, and he could be a better player even than Jefferson. And Jefferson is a Pro Bowl player. So they let go of Jefferson. They get Budda Baker and then to replace him. So this is just 2 defensive picks for the Cardinals that absolutely, for sure, fit their scheme. They love like those just guys that they love those packages where they just put a bunch of like 5 linebackers on the field. They just send wicked blitzes everywhere. They just love the man-to-man coverage. I did think there was one position they didn't cover, which was desperate, and they didn't do it. That was their second cornerback spot. Patrick Peterson is excellent, but they have nobody besides him, and they were just torching Marcus Williams all day long. It seems like the teams are going to do that again. They didn't address or replace Calais Campbell, which is concerning a little bit, but I think that their team is a little bit better because of this draft, because of that defense will be better. Chad Williams, wide receiver. Fitzgerald is going to retire probably after this season. They have John Brown. They have J.J. Nelson. So they, add a wide receiver in there is pretty good. But, I thought this was an okay draft, but I didn't think that it was great. So I'm going to give it another B-.
It has to be a B for me, just off the top of the first 2 picks. Hassan Riddick and Budda Baker were banger picks. Like, I love these 2 picks. I like using that word a lot. Hassan Riddick, at the linebacker position, he's going to make an explosion. He's very tough. He's physical. He's going to make big plays. I really like the pick of Hassan Riddick, but I almost like the pick of Budda Baker even more. Budda Baker, he's going to be explosive. He's going to make big plays as safety. The Cardinals defensively have been pretty good, although last year they were just, I don't know, it was a really weird Cardinal season. So for Budda Baker to come in here and make an impact, I think is great. And this is like my craft of a football player. I really like it. 5'10", 195 for a safety at least. It's a great pick. Chad Williams, I like as a third receiver. A couple of other solid picks. I'm giving him at least a B because of the first 2 picks. I think they were so solid that it's really going to help him out.
Yeah, I'm giving them plus because of those first 2 picks. You need to help your defense. I feel with David Johnson, another year, I think, season, if you look at some of the times they've lost, it was because of their QB play and it was because of their defense. So you get a new linebacker, inside linebacker after that, and then Budda Baker, who they can play nickel, can play corner, play safety. You get the receiver, your third receiver, you give Palmer, one more target until he's probably, I don't know, I could see this being his last year, but this season is setting up decently for Arizona. They go back-to-back, they get a guard, they get a tackles, which they need to. Like Mitch said, I could have seen them do a little more on their offensive defense or their defensive line. What you could say is with their offense, they did get Jarvis Jones, a former first-round pick, but is a bust at this point. He's going to play. I don't mind what they did, and I think besides the Cardinals, I'd put the Cards with the second best draft of the NFC West.
The Arizona Cardinals are all style, no substance.
Here's the hater Seahawks fan. But
listen.
The Cardinals aren't a good. I don't even get this comment because the Cardinals aren't good. Like period. Like they just are not good.
Yeah,
like,
they're
substance. If they were good, that's a good comment.
Well,
they're just not good.
Well, they think that they're good though, Mitch. They think that they're all sexy. They think that they're like this great team that will defeat the Seahawks at any time.
You're gonna hate on this division.
I'm going to hate on 2 drafts, but for 2 different reasons. But
the Seahawks franchise ended when Butler picked that off. It's over.
Shit Hawks.
Okay, we'll get to them.
We're just kidding, Cowboy.
Reddick is fine. You gave up 3 picks for Budda Baker. You didn't get a quarterback. You didn't get a receiver. The Cardinals don't scare me. They never will scare me. They think they're a bunch of big mouths. I think that their draft is overrated. I think their team is overrated. I like the Reddick pick. I don't like anything else. I think you gave up too much to make sure that you got Budda Baker.
Budda.
And I think they had the second worst draft in the NFC West, actually.
Fine.
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick is
# FU Cardinals.
What? Oh God, it's gonna be this thing with the.
All right, let's get to the Rams, which I don't even know if we need to cover this because it was just like.
Well, no, skip them.
Gerald Everett in the second round, another move tight end. I don't understand like the fascination with this. Like, okay, yeah, Cooper Kupp. Yep, another wide receiver for your team that can't run fast or do anything else. And yeah, your team sucks, so it really doesn't matter. Should we just talk? Do we need to talk about the LA Rams?
I gave it a C-.
I gave it a D+. They get the exact same grade as the Bears. The only pick I like, and it's because of bias, is Josh Reynolds on Texas A&M because I really like the guy. But other than that, he's nothing. It's nothing. It's trash.
And let's forget. To get Goff, they traded that 5th overall pick. That wasn't the Titans' pick. Titans got maybe a Pro Bowl receiver with the 5th pick from that Goff trade. Like, imagine what they could have been doing with their team instead of that because who knows what's going to happen with Goff. But from what he showed last year, at least with Wentz, he showed like he could play. Like Goff didn't even show
Goff
like he
is
could
brutal.
play.
I knew he was brutal from the first preseason game I watched.
Garbage.
He couldn't even complete a pass. It was like the worst thing I've ever seen. So
okay, let me give the Rams. This is what I think the Rams did. They went on Madden franchise and they just went to auto draft, and these players were what came up. That was their draft.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah, so I'm going to give them an F minus.
It's just like when you in a fantasy draft when you have you have the Baltimore Ravens defense, but it's in the third round and you accidentally queued it to the top and then you go away and miss your pick and it drafts you a defense in the third round.
Yeah, that's exactly what seemed to happen here.
Okay, so let's go to the 49ers before we go to the Seahawks, just because. Let's go to the 49ers, which I think is arguably the best draft of anybody. Solomon Thomas, I think, is going to be a beast. This guy is the 49ers' Michael Bennett. I think he can play D tackle, D end, outside linebacker. He has a lot of flexibility. He's very strong, very good pass rusher. I think he's going to be a very good player. So they got him with the 3rd overall pick. Then at the end of the 1st round, you got Reuben Foster, who's arguably the best linebacker in the draft. Just had some, off the field things, but people say he's like Kuechly. He jumps off the screen on tape, runs sideline to sideline, can hit, can intimidate. That's what they need. They need to replace Patrick Willis, who was that guy that intimidated. Put him beside Navarro Bowman. That's going to be an excellent duo there. Then you got Witherspoon with the cornerback position at 3rd round. You needed a corner. He's 6'3". Look at those measurables. I mean, he has a lot of the size and speed is off the chart. So you kind of, if they get some good coaching there, this guy could be really good. 3rd round, they went with the quarterback. Kind of interesting. I'll kind of sit back here and just wait on the quarterback pick. I like to wait on the quarterback picks. I think Brian Hoyer is actually going to do really well with the 49ers this year because he's done well with Kyle Shanahan before. But CJ in the 3rd round, a lot of people didn't really love this pick at first, but I think, I put my faith in Kyle Shanahan's offense to make the most out of the quarterback. So we'll see what happens with him, but I'll put my faith there. Joe Williams, running back. He's speedy. He's a speedy kind of guy, kind of complements maybe Carlos Hyde. I'm not sure how much they love Carlos Hyde in the Shanahan system, but I really like Carlos Hyde. So I think, pair those two guys up. That could be a solid combo. Then you go down the list. They had so many picks. They had 2 5ths. Then they had 2 6ths and a 7th. I just thought this draft overall met every expectation for the 49ers. They got 2 studs in the 1st round that can turn their franchise around on defense. And they filled some holes down the list in the 3rd rounds and the 4th round. So I'm going to give the 49ers an A.
What I appreciate from a team like San Francisco and Cleveland, as compared to a team like Chicago, is that this was the 3rd worst team in football. Actually, they had the 2nd worst record in football last year. They went out and made players. They went out and said, we are the 2nd worst team in football, according to stats. We need to go change this. And they did. Solomon Thomas is an excellent pick. I love the pick. Defensive end, he's going to make big plays, and especially in that division, he's going to make a lot of key plays against quarterbacks like Russell Wilson that you're going to have to put a lot of pressure on them and make them run and scramble and do a bunch of other things. And Solomon Thomas is great. Reuben Foster.
I don't know, Dylan. I think I could rush the passer against Seattle's offensive line and still get to the quarterback.
That's going to make it better, though, because he's an actual football player.
Oh, okay.
He's going to get 10 sacks a game for them. Reuben Foster, love this pick. Out of anybody that could have gotten at this pick with what they had, it was the best steal of the 1st round. Reuben Foster, great linebacker. I mean, we've heard about the stuff off the field, but if you look at the on-field potential, this guy is crazy good. So I love that. They're trying to compare him to Patrick Willis. That's great. And that's what you kind of want because this guy is excellent. With CJ Beathard, I think is a good pick. It's not exactly stunning, but I mean, you take a risk. If you don't want to use him, you don't want to use him. I don't think it's the end of the world. Joe Williams as a running back is a nice compliment, like you said. They got George Kittle, which is a nice tight end pick for them. Trent Taylor as a nice receiver. I'm giving them my only A of the draft. I think they had the best draft overall, and they got 2 stunning picks in the first round. That's why I'm going A.
Yeah, I'm going actually A+. My only A+. This is the best draft, I think, of any team. What they had, you get 2 guys that are going to be future Pro Bowl players, and I think they're going to be future Pro Bowl players very soon. You're getting back to that identity that the San Fran during Jim Harbaugh had with that defense. Witherspoon's a pretty solid corner, 6'3", big, kind of similar to what we see with Sherman. A lot of teams are going with these bigger corners now. With Beathard, I like the pick because Kyle Shanahan, look what he's done. And if you remember, Cousins actually was a 4th-round pick, wasn't he?
He was a middle. Yeah, he was like a 4th.
Yeah, he was
something like that.
So, and actually, Donald Trump during the campaign said C.J. Beathard is going to be the next Tom Brady.
Well, then there's a fail right there.
That's it. That's over now.
And then Joe Williams, I like the pick. And then George Kittle, you get the Iowa QB, and then you get his tight end. So maybe they're liking CJ a bit more than we think. To maybe I like Hoyer, but if Hoyer gets injured, I think right now,
Well, obviously Hoyer is kind of like a short-term solution. They're just like a 1 year, maybe 2. That's about it, right? They probably figure they're going to have a high pick next year. We're going to be in the top 5. We might even get a quarterback in that class. So
yeah, but I just think and give credit to John Lynch. The guy was on TV. He's never been a professional scout. All of a sudden, he goes and fleeces Chicago. Somehow talks them into giving them 2 third-round picks and a 4th to move up 1 spot, and you still get your guy. I'll give.
Where are all those people that said John Lynch doesn't know what he's doing, and he's
he does.
One of the greatest safeties of all time. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Oh, and one of my favorite announcers. I'm actually gonna miss him. Because I watched a lot of Fox games. He did a lot of Eagles games, so that's too bad. But yeah, I'm giving them an A+. I think they're building something for the future because you're seeing teams like, the Rams aren't going to be good for a while. The Cards are going down, and the Hawks are going down. Give it 2 years, and San Fran starts winning this division every year.
Bro, there could be.
Hey, I said that.
You did, and I agree.
Okay, I will say, first of all, I think the 49ers had the best draft, so I'll give them an A. I think they did a lot of great things, especially when you're the second worst team, you need draft picks. And to be honest with you, I think that they can finish second in this division. I think that they're better right now than Arizona. I just think I think they're going to have an easy schedule. I think Hoyer will be efficient. They'll get that defense together back to where it was. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams. And I don't think that they're going to be a top 5 pick. I think they're going to be. I think that they may make a run for the playoffs. I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to make the playoffs, but I think that they may make a run for the playoffs.
I don't know, Kev. I have a lot of faith in their coaching, but I just don't see them having enough talent yet.
It's this schedule, though. They do have an easy schedule that I think can give them a little bit of wins, and they may have some momentum. That I think that they can be in the playoff. They don't necessarily. You don't necessarily need 10 wins to get into the NFC playoffs. You can do it with 9-ish. So
I would like to mention the fact that Seattle and Arizona have a worse strength of schedule than the 49ers. They'll have an easier schedule. In terms of record of last season, the Cardinals will be 23rd in strength of schedule, and the Seahawks are tied for 25th. And the 49ers are 20th.
Seahawks are weak. They'll still lose 5 games.
Yeah, they will.
Well, let's get to those.
Overall, good draft. It's between the Seahawks and the 49ers for this division. And
it's the Seahawks and everybody else. This division is not good right now. But yeah, I agree because I said that right when Kyle Shanahan was actually hired with John Lynch, and I was like, yeah, they're going 3 years from now, they're going to be winning the division. That's what I said at the beginning, and I stand by that with the solid progress. Offseason was great with the free agents. I put them in my top 5 winners, and then also probably the best draft of any team. Now we go to the Seattle Seahawks.
Which is a good fitting grade right there.
We have Malik McDowell at the defensive tackle from Michigan State, 6'6", 295. Genetically beast. I know you look at his measurables. Michigan State is a good school. He could play inside. He could play out maybe, but I think he's going to play more inside for Seattle at the 4-3 defense. Pete Carroll usually nails the defensive lineman pretty well, and this was a guy that could have arguably went in the first round. So I think this was a good pick early in the second. You needed a center to replace Max Unger. Yeah, Max Unger left like 3 years ago. They finally got a center now from LSU. LSU, again, always has good offensive lines. He will probably be a capable starter for you and start day one. That's good for you. The rest of the draft, I mean, I'm not really going to dive heavily into it. You got a couple of DBs, which you have been lacking a lot of depth there, specifically when Chancellor goes down, specifically when Thomas goes down. You see major holes, in the Seahawks secondary. So 2 third-round picks on that, back to the D tackle in the third round. So wide receivers, more secondary. You picked how many safeties in this draft?
3.
How
safety. So
One's gotta hit.
I'm just interested to see what Kev says, but go ahead, guys.
Well, hey, I'm gonna quickly just say, for me, it's a B-. It wasn't the worst. With that second pick, I think you have to go. There was still some. I think Forrest Lamp was still available at that point. You have to go tackle or guard. You have the worst starting line.
Yeah.
Like, look at their right tackle, Ode Obuche, that they got from Houston, who was a backup. You have Ifedi, who was their first-round pick at right guard. Justin Britt at center, Justin Britt is their best.
And then they pick a center.
Yes, exactly. Their left guard is Mark Glonowski. And then you have Luke Jokel. Then you have at left tackle, you have Luke Jokel.
Who's the basketball player? Luke Jokel was awful for the Jaguars. If he's better this year, then maybe, but he was bad.
He's been a bust, but at that section, you need to get a good tackle. And D tackle, Jaron Reed has been an unbelievable player for them.
The thing I don't understand about the Seahawks is why did they draft the D tackle when they never have good D tackle? Mebane was okay, good.
But Jaron Reed last year was very good.
The D tackles for their defense is not
they're necessary.
that important. Yeah. They need D ends, they need middle linebacker, they need safeties.
Yeah.
The rest don't really matter. Sherman is a nice piece, but they don't even need corners, to be honest with you, the way that they play their defense.
They don't.
And it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah. I like some of the value at their picks, so I'll give it a B-.
I'll give it a
minus because I like the value, but I'm just saying they didn't go out what they needed to do. And that was, how are you going to protect Russell Wilson? You can't have him. Especially even that offensive line isn't even built for a run game. So how do you even get your offense going? Russell Wilson can't do what he did last year, which is just run around. He's not good enough to do that. He needs this nice system like they did when they had Marshawn Lynch, because he's not as good as an effective player without a solid running game and an O-line like he is last year. He can't be doing that. He's going to get hurt too. So
I'll give him a C for Seahawks, because I didn't find them most effective. They got Malik McDowell, which I think is a solid pick at 295. Holy shit. But other than that, they needed more pieces, and I think they could have gotten better for their worth. And they traded back a lot, so I was interested to see they're probably going to get a lot of stuff out of that. But this draft, I didn't think they were the most confident.
Kev is about to explode.
He's going to go A+ all the way.
I'm going to go B. I think McDowell was actually a very shrewd pick. They needed help actually defending the run. They're not strong in the middle, especially in the middle. They haven't been for a while. This guy has the potential to be a beast. What I like about this pick is he's not a first-round pick, so there's motivation for him, which is part of his reputation, is his low motor. So I like the size. I like the potential for him to be a beast. Ethan Pochek will not be center. Ethan Pochek will either be a guard or a tackle. What I appreciate about Pochek was the fact that he's versatile. He can play all 3 positions. And I don't think Pochek is going to be a center, not this year anyway. They may build him to a center, but I think he's going to be on the outside. They got a young offensive line. Yes, it's not the greatest, but I think that they've done enough work to improve it a little bit. I like the fact that they developed the secondary with Earl and Cam both being hurt and getting up there. They needed to start replacing that. They're also going to add a veteran corner, and they're probably going to move. I think they're going to move Griffin to corner. I think that's one thing that they're going to do. Really like the pick of Darboh. They do not have a lot of size of wide receiver. Darboh brings that to the table. I think it can open up some holes for Jimmy Graham. There isn't a lot here to help out with necessarily for offensive line. I mean, they have addressed it as much as they can. I think they want to bring in one more vet, not another rookie. They're going to bring in another veteran cornerback, and they got another running back to add to their depth. So I'll give it a B. Is it the greatest? It's not the best draft, but the Seahawks always do value picks, and they pick a bunch of people and in later rounds, and they create competition at camp. That's the Seahawk way. That may not be the Cowboy way or the Eagle way. It's closer to the Patriot way, though, and it has been successful for them over the years. So we'll see what happens. Their last couple of years of their drafts, I admit, haven't been great, but we'll see what happens here.
I don't think one Super Bowl and being in a shitty division is braggable worthy than putting yourself even in this conversation.
Oh, that's out too, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, you can call me out, but I can't call you out.
No, you can call us out. It's all good. I'm from this city. I'm from this city, and I'm from Vancouver, so I just have seen not you, but I've just grown up with way too many Homer Seahawks fans that couldn't tell you who the quarterback was before Russell Wilson. That it's kind of gotten into my nerves a bit.
Matt Hasselbeck. There was
the greatest.
Hey, bro, Matt Hasselbeck. We're gonna go.
No, I know that.
It
should be easy, but a lot of people couldn't even tell you that. That's why I have a
little
little
Whitehurst. I have Dan McGuire, Rick Meyer.
No, for sure. I just have disdain for the Seahawks because being in this city, there's way too many Homer fans, and they're not as good as everyone paints them to be. I hate them. I absolutely have. I hate them more than I do the Patriots.
That's hard to believe.
Wow.
I think Adam hates me more than the Seahawks, but he hates the Patriots less than the Seahawks.
Hey, it's just good TV, Mitch. It's just good TV, man.
We're all here for
bro. You're supposed to agree with me. It's come on.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But you know what? The Seahawks, one of the areas that they needed to address more than anything else, I think, is their depth. They're in this position where they can rebuild and still be a playoff contender because probably this division, in part because the division sucks, but in part because of the pieces that they have. And what I also like about their off season is they didn't spend a hell of a lot of money in terms of long-term contracts. They gave some people like Jokel and Lacey incentivized contracts to make sure that they're going to compete and be good. And I appreciate that. I mean,
they don't have any money to give out.
Okay, I'll say this. The Seahawks will make the playoffs, but they have a 0% chance of winning the Super Bowl.
I think they have a 10% chance of winning. I think they're they're certainly top 4 in this conference. I don't know where they are in terms of Cowboys, Packers. We'll see though.
We'll see. Yeah, they'll make the playoffs. Anyways, guys, those are our NFL draft grades for the NFC, and we did the entire NFL. Oh. So I hope you guys check out the AFC. It was long videos. It was a lot of talking about your favorite team. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new for more NFL content. NFL Top 100. First video on the Bottom Line View. Check it out tomorrow. It's going to be out. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Any last words from the crew here?
Cowboys.
Go Eagles.
Woo!
All right. Peace out.
Peace.